Chu Yun, hand the spot over to Chu Hao. From behind the marble coffee table, the middle-aged man spoke in a tone that left no room for negotiation. This was no discussion, it was a verdict. He was Chu Yun's biological father, Chu Tianxiong, head of the Jiangqing Chu family martial arts hall. Chu Yun's gaze fell on the transparent document bag lying on the table. Inside were only 3 sheets of paper, yet they held the opportunity for him to change his fate against all odds. The transfer agreement for the Azure Nether Secret Realm admission pass. This opportunity had been earned by Chu Yun when he ranked first in Jiangqing's liberal arts track. His chi blood value, however, stood at a pitiful 1.3. Deep within the secret realm lay a substance called marrow, washing liquid. Even a worthless body with a chi blood level of merely 1 possessed a 1 in 10,000 chance to have its muscles and tendons remolded, rewriting its destiny. It had been the single ray of light in his 18-year-old life. Now, his own birth father, sitting across the coffee table, intended to snatch that light away with a single sentence. "Come on, sign it already. Stop dragging your feet," urged Chu Xiaoman, the eldest sister of the Chu family, arms folded across her chest, growing impatient. A waste with only 1 point of chi blood doesn't deserve a spot in the secret realm. It ought to go to Brother Hao. That's making proper use of it, scoffed Chu Cece, the younger sister, quickly jumping in. "If you still acknowledge me as your mother, give the spot to your brother," said Lu Qingwan. "Hao has 9.9 chi blood points. Once he enters the secret realm, he will surely break through the 10-point threshold. He will most definitely get into Kyoto Martial University this year. He is the hope of the Chu family now. As the elder brother, you must think of the bigger picture." There was no trace of maternal warmth in Lu Qingwan's eyes as she looked at Chu Yun, only the moral manipulation of an elder. "Don't speak to Brother Chu Yun like that. The spot was earned by him, and he has every right to decide what to do with it. Even without entering the Azure Nether Secret Realm, I am confident I can break through 10 chi blood points within 5 days. I will never bring shame to the Chu family," said Chu Hao, the adopted son. His voice sounded gentle, every word seemingly considerate toward Chu Yun. Chu Yun glanced coldly at Chu Hao. If he had not inherited the original host's 18 years of memories, he might well have believed the act. No one knew better than him what vicious scheming lurked beneath that gentle mask. 3 days earlier, Chu Hao had framed the original host for taking the wrong cough medicine. As punishment, the original host had been forced to kneel in the basement for an entire day until he perished. Back then, Chu Hao had worn that exact same harmless expression. Chu Yun took a deep breath and looked once more at the transfer agreement. Exposing Chu Hao's true colors was beyond his power. In this world where the strong ruled and ferocious beasts roamed everywhere, one ordinary person like him counted for nothing beside a rising genius on the verge of hitting 10 chi blood points. That was the cruel, suffocating reality. Had he not possessed the Azure Nether Secret Realm admission pass, he would not even have been allowed to sit in this room. Why not sign it? Why not gamble away that 1 in 10,000 chance? "I know you harbor resentment after living 18 years in the basement," Lu Qingwan said. Seeing Chu Yun hold his tongue, she assumed he would submit as he always had, and her tone softened. "Once Howard gets into Kyoto Martial University, your father will sell this Jiangqing villa and buy a much larger one in Kyoto. You will no longer have to live in the basement." "Mother, is that true?" Chu Xiaoman's eyes lit up instantly. Her beloved senior studied in Kyoto. Her parents had always forbidden her from moving there alone over safety concerns, and she had long resented it. Now the possibility was within reach, and she meant to seize it. She struck a domineering eldest sister pose and slammed a black ballpoint pen down onto the table. "You heard what Mother said. If you sign, I'll make sure you get a servant's room in the Kyoto villa." Chu Cece chimed in right away. "Focus on your liberal arts university. After graduation, you can write biographies for martial artists. You might even become famous." Chu Cece's words cut deep, sharp as a scalpel. 3 days since arriving in this world, Chu Yun had learned its unforgiving rules, might made right. As abyss-born secret realms spilled into reality, humanity kept losing territory. Conventional weapons could not kill these alien monsters. Only martial artists wielding chi, blood power could slay them, earning humanity's highest privileges and respect in return. He too wanted to become a martial artist and attend a martial arts university. Yet time was running out. The martial arts examination was only 5 days away. Even if he trained non-stop without eating or sleeping, his chi blood could not rise by 0.1. At his current 1.3 chi blood points, he could not even meet the 3-point cutoff for martial arts junior college. let alone the 6-point threshold for undergraduate admission. Top-tier institutions such as Kyoto Martial University required a bare minimum of 10 chi blood points. Worse still, there were no retakes for the martial arts examination. Even if he entered the Azure Nether Secret Realm and won that one in 10,000 gamble of remolding his body, he would miss his critical window of opportunity. Without the resources of a martial arts university, pills, cultivation manuals, weapons, and medical care, all prohibitively expensive, an independent civilian martial artist could hardly sustain progress long-term. That explained why Chu Hao, already sitting at 9.9 chi blood points, still craved entry into the Azure Nether Secret Realm to push his power higher. A single-point gap in the martial arts exam meant a lower ranked school and drastically fewer cultivation resources down the line. You are a bright boy. Chu Tianxiong tapped the table, his tone final. Your academic performance in liberal arts is excellent. That is your only viable path forward. Brother, liberal arts studies are not inferior to martial arts training. You never have to face abyss monsters. After graduation, you get a decent, safe career. Chu Hao said in his usual mild voice. Your parents are doing this for your own good. For my own good? How dare you utter those words? Chu Yin sneered inwardly, but sneering was all he could do. Refuse? Stand firm on principle. All it would achieve was to annoy Chu Hao. Then Chu Hao could easily arrange some accident that barred him from sitting the exam, ruining his life completely. In this era, without chi blood, without decent education, without money, and with no one to turn to, what future would he have? He could barely imagine how harsh life would become. A part of him wanted to shout the classic rallying cry of the downtrodden. 30 years east of the river, 30 years west of the river. Never bully a young man fallen on hard times. Yet with only 500 yuan in his pocket, he had no real choice at all. The weight of helplessness washed over Chu Yun. He slowly unclenched his fist and reached for the black ballpoint pen. Perhaps this was simply fate. At that exact moment, ding, detecting host's intense dissatisfaction with current circumstances. Golden, finger activating, 10%, 30%, 70%, 100%. Activation successful. Ability. Upon entering a cultivation state, 1 minute of real world time equals 1 year of micro time within the host's body. Available cultivation duration. Unlimited, limited only by host's mental stamina. Chu Yun froze, pen suspended halfway in the air. 1 real world minute equaled 1 full year of cultivation inside his body. 1 minute of training equaled an entire year of conventional practice. 1 hour amounted to 60 years. A full day totaled 1,440 years. Even if his natural talent were so poor that a full year of grueling training only raised his chi blood by 0.1 points, 1,440 years would grant him 144 chi blood points. 1 single day of cultivation would let him outshine every genius in Jiangqing. Gaining admission to Kyoto Martial University would be trivial. Push it further. 5 days of training would grant him 720 chi blood points, surpassing all geniuses from decades past and decades to come. Push it even more. 1 real world year would translate to 520,000 years of internal cultivation, enough for even a pig to achieve mythic power. What are you staring at? Sign right now. Seeing Chu Yun's hand hanging motionless, Chu Xiaoman forced the pen into his grasp. Drag this out, and you won't get to eat at the dinner table. Chu Cece glanced at her phone. Exactly. I have plans with classmates this afternoon. Stop dawdling. Sign. Not a chance. After 1 day of cultivation, I will crush every prodigy in Jiangcheng and claim the Azure Nether Secret Realm spot for myself. Still, he needed a believable explanation for his explosive chi blood surge during the martial arts exam. How could someone with 1.3 chi blood suddenly possess over 500? Without reasonable context, the Martial Affairs Bureau would immediately investigate, desperate to uncover the secret behind his power. In an age threatened by abyss invasions, a human whose strength erupted out of nowhere would arouse terrible suspicion. Many would assume he was an infiltrator planted by abyss demons. Precedents for such fears existed. The marrow, washing liquid inside the Azure Nether Secret Realm, famed for remolding mortal bodies, provided the perfect cover story. If he passed the martial arts exam and officially enrolled in a top-tier martial arts university, everything would appear natural. Elite universities swarmed with prodigies. One more late, blooming genius would raise no eyebrows. Then he would show those so-called geniuses what true power looked like. Chu Yin dropped the ballpoint pen. His gaze swept across every person in the room, and he shook his head calmly. I cannot sign this document. Silence fell over the living room, broken only by the hum of the central air conditioning unit. Chu Tianxiong's expression darkened. He could hardly believe his ears. What did you say? Chu Yun kept his composure and enunciated each word clearly. I said I cannot sign. Ha! Chu Tianxiong laughed out of rage, fury blazing in his eyes. Do you think I am negotiating with you? I will say this once more. Surrender the spot, or get out of the Chu family household. Chu Hao, who had looked relaxed until then, let a flicker of malice cross his eyes. Father, please do not get angry, Chu Hao said quickly. Brother must have his reasons. Even if he refuses to give up the spot, we are still family. There is no need for such tension. Ignoring Chu Hao entirely, Chu Yun met Chu Tianxiong's furious glare and gave a cold laugh. Perfect. Chu Tianxiong, you shall have your wish. From today onward, I, Chu Yun, cut all ties with the Chu family. We are done with one another. Dead silence descended again. You have lost your mind, Chu Xiaoman cried out. Without the Chu family, you cannot even afford food. Chu Cece sneered. Who do you think you are? Without our protection, you are worse than street thugs. Lu Qingwan's features twisted with rage. 18 years old, and already think you can fly away? Go. Leave right now and never come back. Chu Tianxiong knitted his brows into a deep frown and simply stared coldly at Chu Yun without speaking. Beneath that facade, Chu Hao rejoiced. He had feared Chu Yun would fight relentlessly for the spot, yet here he was choosing to walk out. That suited Chu Hao perfectly. In truth, he was already capable of breaking the 10-point qi blood threshold. He had only coveted the admission pass belonging to Chu Yun. Though he had failed to seize it, driving Chu Yun away was an excellent outcome. He possessed countless ways to ensure Chu Yun never rose again, never returned to the Chu household. This was his true goal, to take Chu Yun's place as the sole son of the family. Putting on a show of alarm, Chu Hao grabbed Chu Yun's arm and pleaded loudly. Father, mother, sisters. Brother is only acting on impulse. He does not truly mean this. He does not want to leave. Brother, I do not need you to sign the document. I do not want that secret realm pass anymore. Just stay with us. Apologize to our parents. Tell them you spoke in anger. Wake up, brother. If you sincerely apologize, they will forgive you. Chu Yun glanced at Chu Hao and easily pulled his arm free, expending no qi blood at all. His performance was far too transparent. It was obvious he wanted Chu Yun gone. There is no need. Chu Yun spared no further glance for anyone in the room. He felt no attachment whatsoever to the Chu family. Every passing moment was precious. He could not afford wasting time on these people. He turned toward the front door, pushed it open, and stepped outside. Inside the house, once the door clicked shut, Chu Hao reveled in secret triumph. That nuisance is finally gone. Ha ha. Everything belonging to the Chu family will be mine. No, all of this was always meant to be mine. He composed his features back into an expression of concern. Father, mother, could brother be in danger out there alone? The martial arts exam draws near. What if something terrible befalls him? He chose to leave of his own accord. Lu Qingwan snapped sharply. Whatever happens to him has nothing to do with us. He will come crawling back within a few days, Chu Xiaoman scoffed. Sister is right, Chu Cece agreed. Brother Hao has suffered enough at his hands. We must show him no mercy. Lu Qingwan turned anxiously to her husband. Tianxiong, without that signed agreement, do you have another way to get Hauer into the Azure Nether secret realm? Rest assured, I will call Association President Li shortly, Chu Tianxiong replied. He looked toward Chu Hao with uncharacteristic warmth. Hauer, focus solely on your cultivation these next few days. Leave all other matters to me. Ask for anything you require. Yes, these 5 days are critical, Lu Qingwan added. Thank you, father, mother. Chu Hao smiled broadly. I will not let you down. Do not put too much pressure on yourself. Simply perform as you are capable. Brother Hao is so talented. Getting into Kyoto Martial University will be effortless. Harmony reigned inside the living room. The earlier hostility entirely vanished, as though this was how the family ought always to be. Outside the villa gate, Chu Yun exhaled deeply. He reached into his pocket out of habit, searching for a cigarette, only to remember he had transmigrated to this new world. He shook his head, slipped both hands into his pockets, and strode toward the residential compound exit. Behind him, the sound of the Chu family's laughter slowly faded. Once outside the compound, Chu Yun pulled out his cracked, screen smartphone and opened his digital wallet. His balance stood at 758.32 yuan. No one would guess that the biological son of a wealthy Jiangsheng household possessed barely more than 700 yuan. That sum was insufficient for even a decent hotel room. With the martial arts exam scheduled in 5 days, he needed affordable accommodation not too far from his school. He opened the local map application and located an urban village district roughly 1 kilometer from Jiangxing High School. It housed migrant workers and small-scale street vendors. Public security was mediocre, yet rent was cheap. He took the subway to Jiangxing High School, then walked 30 minutes until he reached the urban village area. He stood before an old 4-story building. Leaning crookedly beside its entrance stood an electric utility pole plastered with advertisements. The courtyard was cluttered with pots, all planted with chili peppers. His landlord was a gaunt 60-something-year-old man, a scar running across the bridge of his nose and dark age spots covering his left cheek. He looked Chu Yun up and down with cloudy eyes. "You are the one inquiring about a room?" "Yes." "Student?" "Yes." "Of legal age?" Chu Yun displayed his digital identity card. "Just turned 18. The old landlord nodded. As long as the tenant was an adult, there were no legal risks. He saw no reason to turn down income. "Single room. 50 yuan per night, 800 per month. Since you are a student, I will waive the security deposit. How long will you stay?" "1 week." Chu Yun decided not to bargain. He paid for 7 nights. What little money remained would cover food until the exam. Once the martial arts exam concluded, earning funds would become easy. He completed the payment. Hearing the payment confirmation tone, the landlord handed over a key. "3rd floor, room 303. Do not lose this key. Replacement costs 50 yuan. Chu Yun climbed to the 3rd floor and unlocked 303. Inside stood only a bed with not even a chair. At least a window kept the small room from feeling completely suffocating. He paid no mind to the slightly stained bedsheets. Compared to the damp basement he had occupied in the Chu mansion, this place was far better. He bolted the door shut and summoned his translucent system interface. It was time to test his golden finger. God. Treading staircase system ability. Upon entering a cultivation state, 1 minute of real world time equals 1 year of micro time within the host's body. Available cultivation duration. Unlimited, limited only by host's mental stamina. Current chi, blood, 1.3. Chu Yun sat cross-legged on the bed, cleared his mind of all distracting thoughts, and began practicing the basic respiration technique. 1 second, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 5 seconds, 1 full minute. Chi, blood permanently increased by 0.1. There was no searing agony, only profound physical comfort. He could distinctly feel this new chi. Blood had genuinely built up inside him through an entire year's worth of simulated cultivation. This rich vital energy circulated through his meridians, nourishing every part of his body. It was natural and stable, with no hollow artificial quality. 1 real world minute equals 1 year. Chu Yun suppressed surging excitement, refocused his mind, and immersed himself fully in cultivation. Following the breathing manual's guidance, chi, blood completed cycle after cycle, washing through his channels. Warm, refined vital energy coursed repeatedly through his meridians. As time went on, his muscles and bones grew firmer and fuller. His thin, fragile meridians gradually widened and strengthened. 1 real world hour later. Chi, blood permanently increased by 0.1. Current chi, blood, 7.3. Chu Yun's eyes flew open. Sharp glints of light flashed briefly inside the small room. He clenched his fists, feeling surging power filling every part of his body, a sense of wholeness he had never known before. Where his chi, blood had once resembled stagnant pond water, it now flowed like a rushing river. "I have finally hit the undergraduate cutoff line," he whispered, burning resolve shining in his eyes. "Only 1 hour. Incredible." 18 years of humiliation, resentment, despair, and pent-up frustration melted away completely. All those mocking words, claims that liberal arts represented his only hope, suggestions he ought to write biographies for martial artists, were now nothing but jokes of the past. But this was still not enough. Far from it. This was only the beginning. The finish line was still a long way off. On the subway ride over, he had looked up past martial arts examination materials on his phone. In previous years, the national top scorers generally had a chi blood value above 90, among them many peerless talents with values over 100. Last year's National Martial Arts Examination top scorer, Pei Xingming, boasted a terrifying 173 points of chi, blood, and even scored full marks in the practical combat assessment. He had set the highest National Martial Arts Examination score in the past decade. No one knew whether another monstrous genius would emerge this year. A single day slipped by in the blink of an eye. As the saying goes, quantitative change brings about qualitative change. During this time, Chu Yun slept only 4 hours. For the rest of the time, He locked himself inside the rental house, sat cross-legged, and circulated the basic breathing method. Thanks to his heaven-defying cultivation growth rate, he advanced by leaps and bounds, steadily pushing his own chi, blood, all the way to the 100-point threshold. His entire body had undergone a transformation like rebirth. 100 points of chi blood. This was a well-known watershed within the Dragon Kingdom's martial arts community. Ordinary humans had limited flesh and blood, bound by their physical limits. Only when chi blood broke past the 100-point mark could one shatter humanity's innate limits, cleanse the marrow and refine the veins, shed the mortal body, and officially step into the realm of a martial artist. A martial artist. As long as one did not provoke powerful figures, one could move about almost unchallenged in a small place like Jiangqing. Yet Chu Yun, the discarded outcast regarded as useless by his clan, an ordinary man scraping by in a village, in city rental unit, had in merely one day crossed a chasm countless people could not traverse in an entire lifetime, or even several lifetimes. Chu Yun slowly opened his eyes and exhaled a long, lingering breath of turbid air. The condensed breath cut through the surrounding air, producing a sharp whistling sound. Exhaling breath like a blade. This was the most iconic trait of a martial artist. Inner breath condensed to such an extreme, it could slice hair upon contact. He rose slowly, his whole bearing renewed, calm, and restrained. He casually picked up a rough stone fragment from the windowsill, tapped it with his fingertip, and flicked his wrist sharply. Whoosh! The stone shot forth, covering 10 meters in an instant. Crack! A branch about 2 fingers thick snapped cleanly in the distance. The explosive power of this casual strike was already comparable to a standard-issue pistol. It's might astonishing. The martial arts examination assesses more than just chi, blood values. Practical combat carries great weight. Chi, blood accounts for only 30% of the total score, practical combat 50%, and cultural subjects the final 20%. Chu Yun understood clearly. Right now he possessed abundant chi, blood, and strength, capable of shattering stone with casual blows. Yet practical, combat opponents were not wooden dummies that would stand still and take hits. Against an opponent with comparable chi, blood, rich combat experience, and even a little intelligence, the foe could simply keep their distance and wear him down. If he could not land a hit, no matter how robust his chi blood, he would only feed damage to his enemy. That would truly be a disastrous scene. 100 points of chi blood ought to be sufficient for the martial arts examination. Next, I need to cultivate a martial art technique to perfection. 8. Extreme Fist. Jiangqing High School offered this basic martial art for free, and practicing it alongside the basic breathing method yielded twice the result with half the effort. No sooner thought than done. Chu Yun left the rental house, walked several hundred meters along the village, side river, and arrived beneath an iron bridge connecting 2 administrative districts. Hardly anyone came here ordinarily. Only an occasional angler would show up. Chu Yun opened his phone and quickly reviewed introductory tutorial videos for the 8. Extreme Fist. The school intranet hosted specially recorded lecture videos from martial arts teachers for students to review at home. He closed the video, stowed his phone, and stood in the shadow of the iron bridge. He planted his feet in a stable horse stance, his aura abruptly coalescing, and settled solidly into the 8. Extreme Fist opening posture. Then he threw a punch. Strength erupted, releasing a dull boom of internal force. Though it was merely one punch, Chu Yun felt as though his body had repeated the movement thousands upon thousands of times. He cast aside distracting thoughts and fully immersed himself in the mindset of sturdy frame and anchored stance. Strength for crushing kills. 1 minute, 10 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. Elementary proficiency, minor completion, great completion, perfection. With 120 years of accumulated comprehension, Chu Yun advanced the 8. Extreme Fist all the way from elementary proficiency to perfection. Its strength reached full, natural perfection. No deliberate gathering of force was required. Every gesture carried shaking power. Just as he was filled with joy and ready to head back, he threw a punch on impulse. An strength burst forth once more. Chu Yun stared at his fist. The core principles of the 8. Extreme Fist replayed in his mind, as though a thin paper barrier was about to be pierced. He chose to train for another hour. With 200 years of comprehension, he drew a wisp of fist intent from the fully perfected 8. Extreme Fist, elevating the technique to an even higher level. The moment his mind and will unified, the ordinary strength that previously only struck flesh, sinew, and bone sank down into his dantian. Blending with his chi blood power, it compressed and condensed, forming a strand of pitch black, immensely heavy exclusive inner force. Forge a prison with one's body, slay foes with inch strength. 8. Extreme prison, subduing force. 8. Extreme prison, subduing force. Chu Yun muttered to himself and waved casually. His fist carried none of the sharp, fierce edge of ordinary inch strength. A billow of compressed white air swelled like cotton in front of his fist, only detonating upon striking the river surface. Boom! It exploded like an underwater firecracker, driving 4 or 5 crucian carp floating to the surface. Across the river, an angler who had spent an hour preparing his fishing ground grumbled as he packed up his rod. If not for the river separating them, a physical fight might well have broken out. Shock flickered across Chu Yun's eyes. It was far too powerful. This seemingly casual strike showed no outward menace, yet empowered by the 8. Extreme prison, subduing force, it detonated on contact, far exceeding the scope of ordinary martial techniques. If he fully channeled his chi, blood power, its destructive capacity could double at the very least. If this landed on Chu Hao, the consequences would be devastating. For the time remaining, I only need to steadily raise my chi blood. Should I go to the Azure Nether Secret Realm or not? Chu Yun took a deep breath, calming his excitement. After careful consideration, he ultimately decided to visit the Azure Nether Secret Realm. Though the round trip would take half a day, the marrow, washing fluid inside the secret realm was a rare treasure. Moreover, with his current strength, even if he could not claim national top scorer status, gaining admission to Kyoto Martial Arts University was well within reach. Failing that, Magic City Martial Arts University would certainly accept him. Having made up his mind, Chu Yun skipped the subway, opened a ride, hailing app, and ordered a premium car. Jiangcheng, eastern suburbs. Inside an unfinished building, 3 figures sat atop the rooftop. One held binoculars, watching the street entrance. The leader was a man in his 30s wearing a military green camo vest, a cigarette clamped between his teeth. Cigarette butts and takeout littered the ground beneath him. Xiongba, once a trainee at the Chu family martial arts gym, reported anonymously last year for inappropriate conduct toward female trainees. He was expelled from the gym. Privately, he got along fairly well with Chu Hao. He had received a call from Chu Hao the previous day, who offered 50,000 to teach Chu Yun a lesson. At first he had refused. Assaulting an examinee right before the martial arts examination carried the risk of lifelong imprisonment if caught by the Martial Affairs Bureau. Then Chu Hao raised the offer by another 50,000 and promised a mid-grade chi blood compound upon completion. He had agreed at once. The pay was simply too generous. A single mid-grade chi blood compound was worth more than 500,000. Chu Hao knew exactly how to exploit people's desires. Xiongba's chi blood had been stuck at 99 points for more than half a year. He desperately needed a mid-grade chi blood compound to break through this bottleneck. Success was not guaranteed, yet the temptation was great enough for him to take the risk. Boss, how much longer do we have to wait in this godforsaken place? Beside him, a crew-cut man crushed his cigarette. On his phone, he was messaging several young women at the same time. We've been here a full day? Not a trace of that kid, but we've gotten eaten alive by mosquitoes. Xiongba shot him a sideways glance. What? Only one day out here, and you're already itching for entertainment. The crew-cut man laughed awkwardly and closed his phone. I'm just worried we'll come away empty-handed. Why not block him at the school gate on examination day? Have you lost your mind? Attacking senior, high students on examination day. If you want to die, don't drag me down with you. What's the big deal? I pulled stunts like that back in high school. Got locked up for a few days and then released. That was different. Back then you were still a sophomore. The Martial Affairs Bureau could not come down hard on you. Xiongba slapped the back of his subordinate's head without mercy. You try pulling that stunt as an adult now and see what happens. The crew-cut man protested. I may not be a sophomore, but several of my contacts are. They hit hard. Against some good 4-0 with only 1 point of chi blood, they could put him bedridden for a month in moments. Enough of this useless talk. Hold this position these next few days. Once this job is done, 100,000 is ours. I'll take you 2 out for several days of fun. Xiongba lit another cigarette. He had considered the crew-cut man's idea. After all, even Chu Hao did not know exactly where Chu Yun stayed. He only knew Chu Yun held an access pass for the Azure Nether Secret Realm. Rather than combing the whole of Jiangcheng for one high schooler, it made more sense to lie in wait along the only road leading to the Azure Nether Secret Realm. He had no wish to provoke the Martial Affairs Bureau unless absolutely necessary. Security across the city would be at its highest level on examination day. Any major commutation would bring consequences he could not bear. Therefore, to avoid drawing the attention of the Martial Affairs Bureau, these past few days he had dispatched men to search the city for Chu Yun, while he himself lay in ambush on the outskirts with 2 trusted subordinates. "Boss, someone's coming." The stout man, keeping watch, spoke up suddenly. "I think that's our target." His words sent a jolt through the group. "Let me see." Xiong Ba snatched the binoculars from the stout man and looked toward the indicated direction. A ride-hailing car slowly pulled up at the end of the road. A teenager climbed out. 17 or 18 years old, wearing a Jiangcheng High School uniform. He stared down at his phone. Xiong Ba adjusted the magnification. When he made out the young man's features, a grin spread across his face. "It's him, no mistake. Looks exactly like the photo, even wearing the same uniform. Grab our gear. Let's move." Xiong Ba tossed aside the binoculars, told his 2 underlings to grab steel rebars, and sprinted for the stairwell. Moments later, the 3 vanished from the rooftop. Chu Yun's ride-hailing car had stopped at the intersection just before the Azure Nether Secret Realm checkpoint. Beyond this point, monster beasts roamed. This was the farthest point cars could reach. Chu Yun checked his navigation app and proceeded onward on foot. Having broken through to martial artist rank, his senses were several times sharper than ordinary humans. He had not walked far when he detected figures closing in fast. A van swerved abruptly across the road, blocking his path. The side door slid open with a clatter. 3 men jumped out and surrounded Chu Yun in a triangular formation. Xiong Ba spat away his cigarette, and looked Chu Yun up and down, undisguised contempt in his eyes. "You're Chu Yun, huh? You've kept us waiting." Chu Yun's pupils narrowed. Thoughts raced through his mind, and he immediately understood the situation. "How much did Chu Hao pay you?" "Oh, sharp. No surprise you ranked first in liberal arts. You've got a quick mind." Xiong Ba raised an eyebrow, tapping a steel rod against his palm. "Young Master Chu sent us with a message. What belongs to the Chu clan is not yours to take. Hand over the access pass and break one of your own legs, and we'll pretend we never saw you." Chu Yun said nothing. He merely watched him quietly. His eyes held none of the fear, panic, or even anger Xiong Ba had expected, only icy, detached calm. The crew, cut subordinate, laughed coarsely. "Boss, why waste words? A good 4, nothing with 1 point of chi blood. 1 hand is all I need." The words had barely left his mouth when the crew, cut man charged forward, swinging the steel rebar hard toward Chu Yun's shoulder. A solid hit would at minimum cause bone fracture. He fully intended to cripple him. Chu Yun moved. He did not dodge, nor did he block. At the very instant the rebar was about to land, he lifted his right hand. Fingers spread, he caught it with what looked like effortless ease. Crack! The rebar's downward momentum halted dead. The crew, cut man, froze. It felt as though he had struck iron, not flesh. The solid 2-finger, thick steel rebar had been caught single-handed by Chu Yun. "You!" Shock washed over the crew cut man. He tried to yank the rebar free, yet it felt welded in place. The next instant, Chu Yun twisted his wrist. An indescribable shaking force traveled down the steel bar into the man's body. The crew cut man felt searing pain tear through his tiger's mouth, then his wrist, then his forearm. A sickening series of bone-cracking sounds rang out. He screamed and let go. His right arm hung twisted and useless at his side. The rebar clanged onto the ground. "What?" Xiong Ba's face paled. Everything was unfolding far differently than he had imagined. In his plan, the 3 of them would surround Chu Yun, toy with him for a while, feign acceptance of pleas for mercy, and finally shatter his legs. The stout man stared at the screaming crew cut man on the ground, swallowed hard, and turned toward Xiong Ba, his voice trembling. "Boss, what's going on?" Xiong Ba himself felt a flicker of dread after witnessing Chu Yun shatter his subordinate's arm with 1 strike. Still, he told himself this was just a high school student. Even if intelligence reports were wrong, as a half-step martial artist with 99 points of chi blood, how could he possibly lose to a kid barely out of his teens? That would be utter foolishness. What good were martial art techniques without sufficient chi blood to back them up? They were nothing but empty flourishes. Don't be afraid. He's only managed to muster a little internal force. Martial skills mean nothing without chi blood support, just empty show. Cut off his escape route. Don't let him run. Xiong Ba had seen real combat before. He suppressed his alarm and roared. 99 points of chi blood erupted. His muscles bulged. The steel rebar in his hands whistled through the air as he swept it horizontally toward Chu Yun's waist. This was his signature, sweep the 1,000 armies. In the past, 1 blow had shattered marble. This strike was not meant merely to cripple, it was meant to kill. The stout man also attacked, stabbing another steel bar toward Chu Yun's lower back from the side. The two worked in seamless coordination. Chu Yun finally unleashed his true power. His body twisted at an angle defying ordinary physics, evading the stout man's thrust. At the same time, he clenched his right fist and punched straight toward the sweeping steel bar. A deceptively simple blow. The 8 extreme prison-subduing force erupted silently. Fist met steel. Clang. A deafening crash of metal rang out. Xiong Ba felt an overwhelming, unstoppable force surge through the rod. His full power strike fueled by 99 points of chi blood crumpled like cotton candy before this might. This power was inhuman. Cracked the steel rebar, snapped cleanly in two. The broken fragment flew off and embedded itself deep within a nearby old tree trunk. Xiong Ba's tiger mouth tore open, blood streaming down. Violent recoil numbed his right arm and pounded his chest. He staggered backward 6 paces before regaining his balance. Shock widened his eyes. His voice shook. What kind of monster are you? Chu Yun repeated his earlier question flatly. How much did Chu Hao pay you? To Xiong Ba's ears, it sounded like a demon's whisper. Terror washed over him. Every trace of fighting spirit vanished. Run. He had to run. Report this to Chu Hao. No, report to the Martial Affairs Bureau. This kid was abnormal. He spun and fled, pouring every drop of chi blood into his legs to push his speed to the limit. Fast as he was, Chu Yun was faster. Honed over 200 years, the 8 extreme steps carried Chu Yun 10 meters with a single stride. Before Xiong Ba could get far, Chu Yun stood right in front of him. He drove a fist straight into Xiong Ba's lower abdomen. Puffed. Xiong Ba coughed up a mouthful of blood. His eyes bulged. His camo vest ripped open at the back where the fist impacted. Crack his spine, harder than steel rebar, fractured. All his chi blood dissipated in an instant. Consciousness ebbed away. His large body crumpled to the ground, lifeless. To his last breath, his face was frozen in stunned disbelief and bitter regret. Beside them, the stout man had barely processed what had happened. He had only seen his boss turn to run, and then collapse. A monster. The stout man's legs gave way. He slumped onto the ground, terror-stricken. Be big, brother. This had nothing to do with me. It was all Chu Hao's idea. He paid the boss 100,000 to break your legs. I was only keeping watch. I'll never dare do this again. Spare me, please. The stout man threw himself onto his knees and kowtowed frantically. So, I am only worth 100,000. Chu Hao is rather cheap. Chu Yun looked down at the weeping man, no pity in his gaze. Only cold, unfeeling rationality. This was a world of the strong preying on the weak. Might made right. Today his strength prevailed, so his foes lay defeated. Had he not broken through to martial artist, he would be the one lying broken on the ground. These 3 would have treated him with far greater cruelty and malice. That was the harsh truth of the martial artist world. Chu Yun said nothing. He tapped one toe. A fingernail-sized stone shot forth, striking the stout man squarely between the brows. His eyes rolled back. Without even a groan, he collapsed limply to the ground and fell still. The crew-cut man, who had witnessed Chu Yun kill 2 men in the blink of an eye, was paralyzed by terror. He had tried feigning death, but his body trembled uncontrollably. This was primal human fear in the face of death. He watched the young man walk toward him. The teenager's expression was cold, his face betraying no emotion. His gaze was as still as an ice-chilled deep pool. The crew-cut man opened his mouth. Hoarse noises rattled in his throat, yet no words came out. Utter, crushing fear. A numbing cold spread through every limb. Ugh! Before Chu Yun could get close, the light in the crew-cut man's eyes faded abruptly. His body went rigid, and he fell silent. He had literally been scared to death. Even so, Chu Yun stepped forward to finish him off, stamping down hard on the crew-cut man's chest. A dull thud echoed, like stomping a crumpled, empty can. The crew-cut man's chest caved invisibly, no longer rising and falling. Complete silence descended over the scene, broken only by leaves rustling in the wind and the heavy stench of blood hanging in the air. Chu Yun frowned slightly as he stared at the 3 bodies on the ground. Killing people right before the martial arts exam would bring huge trouble if the Martial Affairs Bureau found out. His gaze drifted toward the dark woods beside the road. From memory, this stretch of forest connected to the wilderness outside the city, where low-rank mutant beasts sometimes roamed. He glanced at the beat-up van parked not far away. A plan formed instantly in his mind. Chu Yun bent down, grabbed Xiong Ba by the ankle, and dragged him toward the van like a dead weight. Next went the crew-cut man and the chubby young man. He fished the van keys off the chubby man. Fortunately, he had earned a C1 driving license in his past life. Ignition. Start. Shift gears. Every movement smooth and practiced. The van rumbled deep into the woods. He found a hollow marked by countless beast tracks and dumped the 3 bodies there. First, he collected all the cash from their persons. He ended up with more than 5,000 yuan. Over 3,000 came solely from the crew cut man, which took Chu Yun by surprise. He paid no mind to the balances in their mobile wallets. Mobile banking operated entirely online. If the Martial Affairs Bureau wanted to investigate, they could trace every transaction without difficulty. There was no point taking such a risk. He stowed the cash away, then stripped every article of clothing off the 3 corpses. After that, he pulled the dagger tucked at Xiongba's waist and cut deep, bone-exposing gashes across each body. Once done, he walked back to the van parked on higher ground. He grabbed a pack of cigarettes and a lighter from the dashboard, pulled one out, and lit it. He rolled down the window, and wispy smoke drifted into the forest. Leaning back against the seat, he waited quietly. Before long, rustling sounds echoed through the woods, and a nauseating stench drifted over on the breeze. Dozens of pairs of greedy, emerald eyes glowed in the dim undergrowth. Mutated hyenas. Drawn by the thick scent of blood, they swarmed out of the deep woods, growling low and panting eagerly as they pounced on the 3 feasts in the hollow. Ferocious feeding and violent squabbling broke out, accompanied by the sickening crunch of splintering bone. The sounds of tearing, chewing, and shattering bone rose and fell. Chu Yun watched calmly as the cigarette burned down between his fingers. In less than an hour, silence returned to the hollow. The 3 bodies had vanished completely, even their bones swallowed by the mutated hyenas. Only a large patch of earth soaked dark with blood remained on the ground. They had truly vanished without a trace. The last mutated hyena licked its jaws and retreated back into the thick woodland. Chu Yun pushed open the van door and stepped out. He unscrewed the fuel cap, tore a strip from the crew cut man's clothes, stuffed it into the tank to make a crude fuse, and lit the cloth before stepping back. Flames raced into the fuel tank. Boom! A moderate explosion sent roaring fires surging upward, engulfing the entire van in an instant. Blazing flames illuminated Chu Yun's impassive features. He tossed the men's clothing and the blood-stained dagger into the fire. He glanced at the time on his phone. Then he turned and slipped away along the forest path. When Chu Yun reached the entrance to the Azure Nether Secret Realm, the setting sun slanted across the alloy fence outside the checkpoint. The checkpoint was a 3-meter-tall concrete sentry box, its outer wall plastered with the management rules for the Azure Nether Secret Realm. Inside sat a 50-something uniformed administrator with a square-jawed face, scrolling through short-form videos with his head bowed. Chu Yun tapped on the glass window. Without looking up, the administrator fumbled across the table, found a stack of registration forms, and slid them through the gap in the window. Fill this out. Slide your access pass through. Chu Yun filled in his information and pushed the form together with his pass back through the opening, the 2 sheets lying neatly aligned. Only then did the administrator lift his head. He scanned the QR code on the access pass with his phone, and the holder's information popped onto the screen. Chu Yun, Senior 3 student at Jiangsheng High School, top scorer in the citywide liberal arts mock exam. His eyes moved downward until they reached the reading, Vitality, 1.3. His eyebrows twitched almost imperceptibly. Every year brought people like this. Trapped with abysmally low vitality, they pinned their hopes on the 1 in 10,000 miracle said to occur within the secret realm. Most soaked in the hot springs for an hour, gained a fraction of a vitality point, and left no better off than before. Just another poor soul chasing slim odds, he thought. Yet he said nothing. After 20 years at this post, he had seen far fewer miracles than exaggerated advertisements. Go on in. The administrator stamped the registration form and filed it in a drawer. Hot springs are numbered 1 through 47. Higher numbers mean hotter water and higher concentrations of marrow-cleansing fluid. He paused and tapped a notice plaque on his desk with his knuckle. Remember, you have exactly 1 hour. Exceeding the time limit triggers a restraint array. You won't simply be teleported out, you will be forcefully ejected. Last year a boy pushed it to 61 minutes. They carried him out with 4 broken ribs, and his vitality set back by 2 years. Beep, a side gate in the alloy fence clicked open. Chu Yun nodded his thanks and stepped through. A 10-minute walk brought him to a 3-meter-tall pale blue portal blocking the end of the path. The Azure Nether Secret Realm was once an abyss domain conquered by human martial artists. It had not been fully sealed off thanks to its unique marrow-cleansing fluid, which enhanced martial artists' physical fitness. Now it operated under standardized management jointly run by the Jiangxing Martial Affairs Bureau and the military. Chu Yun had studied all this information online beforehand and come well prepared. Even so, seeing the towering portal in person filled him with awe. So this is an abyss domain. Chu Yun tapped the surface of the portal. It felt like water mixed with jelly, yielding against his touch. He drew a deep breath and stepped through the rippling curtain of light. A faint resistance brushed across his skin before fading away. His view opened up all at once. He stood inside a valley seemingly sliced free from the outside world. The sky hung in perpetual dusk, never fully bright nor completely dark. Dozens of hot spring pools of varying sizes dotted the valley floor like scattered jade. Low artificial bluestone walls separated each pool into semi-private enclosures. A crisp, distinctive scent hung in the air, the aroma of marrow-cleansing fluid. Barely anything betrayed that this had once been a domain ruled by vicious beasts. Chu Yun followed the bluestone path past several empty pools. Their water glowed emerald, thin wisps of steam curling upward from the surface. Pools numbered 40 and above sat deep inside, reserved for experts who had broken through to the martial master realm with vitality above 500 points. Chu Yun glanced toward the far end, then kept walking until he stopped in front of pool 37. This spot suited him perfectly, deep, secluded, and quiet. He looked around. Nobody was nearby. He quickly took off his clothes, folded them neatly on a dry stone ledge beside the pool, set his phone on top, and jumped into the hot spring wearing only shorts. His warm currents seeped in through every pore, racing upward along his meridians. Unlike ordinary hot spring heat, this warmth felt alive. Countless fine, needle-like sensations traveled along the flow of his vitality, penetrating every muscle, tendon, and bone. Chu Yun took a deep breath and submerged his whole body. Closing his eyes, he activated the basic breathing technique. 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds, 1 minute. A system notification chimed. Vitality permanently increased by 1.0. Out in the real world, 1 minute of rigorous cultivation only earned him 0.1 vitality points. Here, the rate was 10 times higher. The marrow-cleansing fluid lived up to its reputation. Someday after advancing to Martial Master, he would test just how powerful the fluid in Pool 47 truly was. Chu Yun fought down a smile and focused all his attention on his dantian. Spirit particles within the marrow-cleansing fluid streamed through his pores, merged with his inner vitality inside his meridians, condensed, refined, and sank into his dantian to form thick, newly generated vitality. His dantian, once like a parched well, filled rapidly as though fresh water poured into it. It felt like wandering an arid desert for 18 years, then suddenly stumbling upon an entire oasis. Chu Yun pushed aside stray thoughts. He drove the basic breathing technique to its limit. Wave after wave of vitality washed through his meridians. With every full circulation, he refined and absorbed more essence from the marrow-cleansing fluid. With every full circulation, his meridians broadened further. Gradually, the marrow-cleansing fluid within a 3-meter radius around him grew turbulent. Spirit particles evenly dispersed in the water were drawn toward Chu Yun by an immense, invisible pull. Beneath the surface, a visible vortex of spirit energy swirled with him at its center. Particles were stripped away, absorbed, and integrated into his cycle of vitality. Meanwhile, the pool water slowly but irreversibly shifted from emerald green to dull gray. Chu Yun noticed none of this. He was immersed in the bliss of cultivation, oblivious to his surroundings. The sensation was incredible. Not some abstract pleasure, but the visceral joy of flesh and blood transforming. His body, previously only at warrior tier strength, was evolving toward a higher plane. Plenty of time remained before his 1-hour limit. He settled deeper and focused entirely on cultivating. Outside the secret realm, a slender figure walked slowly along the gravel path. Lu Qingxue had chosen this time intentionally. At 6:30 in the evening, most visitors headed back to town before dark, leaving the secret realm nearly empty. She wore a plain white hoodie, the hood pulled low to conceal most of her face. Below, she donned Jiangxing High School's uniform trousers and plain white sneakers. Her outfit let her blend seamlessly into any crowd. Lu Qingxue pulled a gilded black card from her pocket. Chu Yun's access pass, awarded for topping the liberal arts exam, was the standard-issue white permit handed out by the Education Bureau. Her black VIP card operated differently. No identity checks, no time restrictions, no expiration date, no check-in or check-out procedures required. She had asked the administrator. Only 3 people had registered that afternoon, and 2 had left 40 minutes ago. The secret realm was practically deserted right now. She stepped through the portal, crossed the empty outer hot spring zone, and headed straight for the secluded intersection. Pool 39 was her usual spot. Nestled inside a natural hollow deep within the secret realm, It was sheltered on two sides by bluestone walls covered in faintly glowing vines. It was accessible only through a narrow stone gap. Lu Qingxue paused beside the pool and listened closely. Silence. Apart from the soft gurgle of steaming water, nothing disturbed the stillness. She took out a palm-sized 8-trigram mirror and brushed her fingertip across its surface. A pale cyan barrier expanded outward from the mirror like an upside-down glazed bowl, completely enclosing Pool 39. It was a simplified 9-palace 8-trigram formation, blocking outside interference and prying eyes. With her safeguard set, Lu Qingxue unbuttoned her hoodie and let her outerwear drop onto the stone bank. She stepped into the hot spring until the marrow, cleansing fluid reached her chest. The 12-year-old cultivation technique innate to her clan stirred to life within her. Soul Jade Bone Art, exclusive to direct descendants of the Lu family. This technique drew extreme yin, aligned spirit energy to temper bones and meridians. When practicing, pores open wide for maximum spirit energy exchange. Clothing would obstruct this flow and disrupt cultivation. More importantly, her vitality surged wildly while practicing. Interrupting mid-session risked cold yin energy rushing backward into her heart meridian, ranging from damaged meridians all the way to permanent loss of her cultivation foundation. That explained why Lu Qingxue always came at dusk when few others were present. If marrow, cleansing fluid did not lose its potency once removed from the secret realm, the Lu family would have built her a private indoor hot spring long ago. As Soul Jade Bone Art circulated, ripples spread across the pool surface. Faint cold emanated from her skin, intertwining with spirit particles in the fluid to create a unique aura. At that same moment in Pool 37, Chu Yun's vitality climbed to 150 points. His cultivation speed was shockingly fast. So fast that under his voracious absorption, the once vibrant green marrow cleansing fluid had lost most of its color. Spirit particles had been nearly drained away, turning the water an ashen gray. With spirit particle concentration plummeting, buoyancy shifted. From the silt accumulated at the bottom of the pool, something stirred and drifted upward, tugged by the change in buoyancy. It was a jade talisman, roughly palm-sized, shaped like a tiger tally, carved all over with intricate fine patterns. It had lain buried in the pool floor for countless years. Only today, after Chu Yun drained nearly all spirit energy from the hot spring, had shifting buoyancy freed it from the mud. Chu Yun surfaced the moment he halted his practice and spotted the talisman bobbing in the water. Bewildered, he reached out and fished it up. The instant the jade touched his palm, a strange sensation washed over him. Before he could examine its carvings, the system notification sounded. Azure Nether Jade Talisman. When equipped, perfectly conceals vitality fluctuations. It allows you to suppress your cultivation at will and disguise as a realm far below your true power. One fragment of the key to unlock the Azure Nether ruins. Whoa, I found a treasure just soaking in a hot spring. Chu Yun gripped the jade talisman, staring at the translucent system panel, his heartbeat quickening. Perfect concealment of vitality fluctuations. Exactly what he needed most right now. No more worrying about his vitality skyrocketing too rapidly. He could barely hold back his grin. Ever since his vitality hit 100 points earlier that day, he had been hesitating whether to keep raising it. The marrow, cleansing fluid could explain moderate vitality gains, but it could never justify such explosive, abnormal growth. A 1 in 10,000 chance for marrow purification existed, yet nobody heard of it multiplying someone's vitality 100-fold. That excuse would not stand up to serious scrutiny. If a student who registered at merely 1.3 vitality suddenly showed 400+ points on martial arts exam day, the Martial Affairs Bureau would most certainly summon him for questioning. There were documented cases of abyss demon infiltrators. Mere suspicion would be enough to land him in serious trouble. 100 vitality points was already the upper limit he could reasonably pass off. But with the Azure Nether Jade Talisman, everything changed. Chu Yun flipped the talisman over. The front of the tiger-shaped jade glowed softly in the dim light. He focused his mind on activating its power. His displayed vitality dropped rapidly. God, ascending stairway system. Function: when the host enters a cultivation state, 1 minute of real time equals 1 year of subjective time within the host's inner world. Current available cultivation duration: unlimited, limited only by the host's mental stamina. Current vitality: 10. True value: 150. It worked. Simple, direct, flawless. Top students from martial arts classes often gained 1 or 2 vitality points after visiting the Azure Nether secret realm. A regular high, school student starting at 1.3 vitality breaking through to 10 points after 1 hour thanks to that legendary one. In 10,000 marrow, purification chance? That counted as incredible luck. It made perfect sense. If receiving his system had been fate's gift, finding this jade talisman was fortune smiling upon him. Or rather, it was not blind fortune at all. This relic had rested at the pool bottom for ages. Thousands of people entered the secret realm every year, yet none had uncovered it. Only now, on the day he arrived, after he drained an entire pool of marrow, cleansing fluid, had it risen to the surface. Chu Yun tightened his grip on the jade, barely suppressing a broad smile. This was not fate favoring him. He had earned this opportunity through his own strength. Without the god, ascending stairway system, if he had remained stuck at 1.3 vitality, even entering the secret realm would not have drained the pool. He could have soaked there his whole life and triggered no disturbance. The talisman would have stayed buried, waiting for someone else worthy enough to wake it. But he had come. He had turned that 1 in 10,000 possibility into a certainty. Luck for the weak is mere accident. Luck for the strong is what they deserve. Chu Yin drew a deep breath and reined in his surging excitement, forcing himself to stay calm. His gaze fell to the next line of text, fragment of the key to the Azure Nether Ruins. He could not yet gauge the full significance of this clue. He had never encountered the name Azure Nether Ruins in any public documents. Only a tiny fraction of this world's martial arts knowledge was accessible to ordinary citizens. Much information remained classified, partly to prevent leaks and partly to protect regular people from dangerous truths. Even growing up in the Chu household, hearing scattered rumors, Chu Yun's father Chu Tianxiong had never shared knowledge beyond what commoners were permitted to know. Perhaps once he enrolled in a martial arts university, he would learn more of the Azure Nether Ruins. In any case, access to an undiscovered ruin promised precious resources and inherited techniques. Exactly what he would need along his path of cultivation. Martial power required more than high vitality and the 8 extremes prison, subduing art. He needed medicinal pills, advanced martial skills, weapons, meditation visualization techniques, rare heavenly and earthly treasures. Martial arts universities possessed such things, yet supplies were not endless. Excitement over the Azure Nether Ruins faded quickly. That was a matter for the future. First he had to pass the martial arts exam and get into Kyoto Martial University. Plenty of time would remain then to investigate and prepare. Chu Yun stored the Azure Nether Jade Talisman inside his system space, safe from anyone's detection. The marrow, cleansing fluid was completely exhausted, no better than plain water. Staying longer would waste time. Chu Yun pushed himself upward and climbed out of the pool. Water droplets slid down his defined muscles. He grabbed his clothes from the stone ledge and dressed quickly. He glanced at his phone. 7:25. 5 minutes remained. Perfect timing to leave. The instant he turned to depart, his line of sight drifted past the edge of the bluestone wall toward pool 39. Someone was there. A girl. He froze. Shrouded in curling steam, he caught sight of her figure through the mist. Gentle contours were partially veiled by drifting vapor. Strands of damp black hair clung to her neck, their ends swaying softly in the rippling water. His gaze lingered less than a second. He recognized her. Lu Qingxue, the most admired girl at Jiangcheng High School, whose photos were saved on countless boys' phones. She was the kind of person you would never mistake for anyone else after a single glance. She carried a kind aura, a sense of detachment that required no effort to keep others at arm's length. Unapproachable, or rather, she simply had no need for social niceties. Yet the instant Chu Yun shifted his gaze away, the striking figure in pool 39 vanished abruptly, like a pencil sketch erased by an eraser. The pool's surface lay calm and empty, ripples lapping softly against the bluestone shore. It was as if that fleeting glimpse had been nothing more than a mirage conjured by the sweltering heat. Stayed in too long. Chu Yun subconsciously rubbed his temples. Surging vitality had sharpened his senses, yet sometimes they picked up fragmented, unstable impressions. Why had it been Lu Qingxue of all people? The original host had barely interacted with this aloof beauty. Shoving the thought aside, he told himself time was running out. He ought to leave before he ended up getting beaten for nothing. Chu Yun turned and walked away naturally. His figure faded onto the mountain path leading toward the exit and disappeared. Almost the very moment Chu Yun vanished, Lu Qingxue's long eyelashes fluttered violently over her closed eyes inside pool 39. Moments before, as her ice-soul jade bone art neared completion after a full major cycle of practice, her passive perception had expanded to its absolute limit. That was when a jarring stare pierced her senses. It was not a casual passing glance. It felt like penetrating scrutiny. For a split second, the protective formations surrounding her seemed to fail, leaving her completely exposed. What unsettled her even more was the fleeting wave of vitality. It blazed with the vigorous warmth of a rising sun, utterly unlike the aura of any top martial arts student at Jiangqing High School. Was it an expert from another school? Or perhaps, she had nearly forced herself to break off her cultivation and open her eyes to look. But she could not. Right before the Zhun acupoint, her vitality surged like a dragon, only one final thread away from flowing back into her dantian. To interrupt now would mean throwing away all her progress. Worse still, reversed vitality would crash into her dantian, forcing her to rest and recover for at least a month. Lu Qingxue suppressed the surge of alarm and quiet irritation welling inside her. She gathered every shred of her focus and pushed the technique toward its final climax. The instant her vitality flowed back into her dantian, her eyes flew open. Cold light glinted in her fine, beautiful eyes as she swept her gaze instantly toward pool 37. There was no one there. Lu Qingxue climbed out of the pool, moving 10 times faster than her usual pace. She grabbed her clothes off the bluestone rock and pulled them on in quick, fluid motions. She did not bother drying her soaked long hair. It spilled down her back, water dripping onto the hood of her sweatshirt. She rushed out of pool 39. Her footsteps were light yet urgent, and in a few quick strides, she reached the secret realm's exit. The administrator in the guard booth was about to hand over his shift. When a white-clad figure darted toward him, he instinctively reached for his walkie-talkie at his waist. Recognizing the girl holding the VIP black-level access card, he relaxed. "Miss Lu, finished your cultivation? Did anyone just leave?" Lu Qingxue's voice was quiet yet tinged with urgency. The administrator knew this young lady from the Lu family, but still shook his head. "I'm sorry, Miss Lu. Regulations prevent me from disclosing visitor registration information." Lu Qingxue pressed her lips together. She pulled out her phone, dialed a number, and spoke in a low voice for a moment before handing the phone over to the administrator. He answered the call, his manner turning instantly deferential, repeatedly murmuring, "Yes, sir." After hanging up, he gave an awkward smile. It was Chu Yun, Class 7, Senior 3 of Jiangqing High School. He left only a short while ago. Lu Qingxue took back her phone, brushed her damp hair behind her ear, and regained her usual cool composure. She turned and walked outside. A black sedan waited quietly by the road with a sequenced license plate, Jiangp 88888. Driver Zhou sat scrolling on his phone in the driver's seat. Spotting his young lady walking over with loose wet hair, he quickly put his phone away and stepped out to open the car door. "Miss, you finished 20 minutes earlier than usual today." Lu Qingxue got into the back seat and dried her hair with a towel. "Uncle Zhou, did you see anyone come out of the secret realm just now?" A boy in a school uniform, walking quite fast. Uncle Zhou closed the door and sat behind the wheel. "Is something the matter, miss?" "Nothing. Drive." Lu Qingxue folded the towel and set it aside, leaned back against the seat, and closed her eyes. Streetlights along the eastern suburbs flickered on. Orange streaks of light streamed past the windows one after another. Uncle Zhou glanced at her in the rear view mirror, said nothing, and quietly turned off the car's audio system. Her phone lit up 3 times with incoming messages, none of which she bothered to open. She sat unnervingly still. In her mind, she replayed that brief moment over and over. The quality of that vitality had felt wrong. It was not merely a matter of numerical value. She had sensed the 2 scholarship recipients from Jiangcheng High up close before. Their vitality was solid yet raw, like newly forged swords that had not undergone their final tempering, lacking depth. The person from today had been different. His vitality was thick and refined, the kind of texture forged through decades of constant, rigorous training. No one of that caliber attended Jiangqing High. No young person across the whole of Jiangqing possessed such power. What troubled her most of all was the 9, Palace 8, trigram formation. For 12 years it had blocked all outside perception without a single failure. Today, however, something had gone wrong. She replayed every frame of that moment in her thoughts. She was certain the formation had not shattered or sustained any attack. Still, one tiny node had flickered. A realization struck her, and Lu Qingxue's eyes flew open. The 9, Palace 8, trigram formation kept internal conditions from leaking outward. But if an external force resonated against a technique practiced within the formation, it could strike one of its weak points. In theory, this could create a gap lasting less than half a second. That gap would not let someone inside perceive the outside world. Yet if an outside observer happened to direct their gaze precisely at that node during that narrow window, he had only happened to glance over, not actively spy. He had caught an unrepeatable moment. How much did he see? At best, he had only glimpsed the formation's luminous membrane. At worst, she did not want to imagine. Her senses did not lie. Someone's gaze had landed squarely on her in that instant. Lu Qingshue's palms grew slightly cold. As the direct, line daughter of the Lu household, she had awakened her ice-soul divine physique at 12, broken past 100 vitality points at 15, and mastered the ice-soul jade bone art by 18. Her youth had been spent being looked up to and kept at a respectful distance. No one had ever dared look at her in that way. No one had ever gotten the chance. She was accustomed to admiration, to respect, to having everything under control. Today, however, she had been observed unilaterally, without warning, without exchange, without even meeting eyes. That person had walked away without leaving so much as a name. Lu Qingxue tightened her grip on the towel. This feeling disturbed her more than losing a fight. If she lost a battle, she could review her mistakes, train harder, and win next time. This incident could not be reviewed, and there was no way for her to strike back. Chu Yun, could it really be him? Top student in liberal arts, yet dead last in the grade for vitality. Could someone have taken his identity? Lu Qingxue pulled out her phone and made a call. Look into a person for me. At the Chu Family Martial Arts Hall, on the top floor, lay a premium private training room spanning 200 square meters. Floor to ceiling windows wrapped 3 walls, offering an expansive view. Intelligent temperature control, high-end vitality testing equipment, and top-tier training gear created perfect training conditions. Chu Hao slouched on a leather sofa. His phone screen lit and dimmed repeatedly. He opened his contacts, found Xiongba, and pressed dial. Ring, ring, ring. Still a busy signal. Darkness settled over Chu Hao's face. He ended the call and flipped the phone face down onto the sofa. 3 hours earlier, Xiongba had sent only 4 words. Found him. Then complete silence. 5 hours had passed. The job ought to have been finished long ago. Even a failed attempt should have drawn some sort of update. Assistant Hall Master Zhou Haixing walked in and held out a vitality gel. Young Master Hao, don't fret. Replenish your energy first. Chu Hao ignored the offered supplement. His fingers tapped lightly against his phone case. Could Xiongba have run off with my 100,000? Zhou Haixing tossed the drink onto the coffee table and sat down in a relaxed posture. He would never dare, not even with 10 times the courage. Chu Hao stood up abruptly, frustration boiling over. 5 hours and only 4 words. No photos, no video, no sign of the target, and he won't answer calls. What in the world is going on? Signal can be spotty out in the suburbs. It happens. Zhou Haixing gestured for him to calm down and sit. Think about it. He already located the target. Xiongba has 99 vitality points. How much does Chu Yun have? 1.3. Taking down someone with 1.3 vitality is practically free money for him. And you promised him an intermediate vitality potion upon completion. Why throw all that away for 100,000? Chu Hao loosened his collar, his expression still heavy. Even so, he ought to have sent some message. Did they get their phones confiscated? Did Chu Yun call the authorities? Absolutely impossible. Zhou Haixing cut him off firmly. Forget Chu Yun. Even a martial arts hall disciple with 40-odd vitality points could not survive 3 moves against Xiongba. Before anyone could pull out a phone, Xiongba's fist would already land. Even if they ran into martial administration patrols out there, Xiongba would still have time to contact us. Only 2 possibilities remain. Zhou Haixing lowered his voice, a ruthless glint flashing in his eyes. Either he struck too hard and failed to keep him alive, and he is busy cleaning up the mess, or he took him to some remote spot with no signal to handle him, so he cannot get back in touch right away. Xiongba's beat-up van has broken down on the road more than once. A jolt of alarm went through Chu Hao. You mean he killed Chu Yun? He had only wanted Chu Yun crippled, not dead. It was not fear of the martial administration. He wanted Chu Yun stripped of everything, forced to scrape by like a stray dog. Quite possible. They could be out in some wild patch right now, disposing of his body. Zhou Haixing spoke matter-of-factly. Digging a grave takes time. Even working 10 hours a day, you might not finish in 3 days. Once he wraps everything up, he will reach out. After hearing this analysis, the grim tension on Chu Hao's face slowly eased. Dead works too. Fewer complications. Then the whole Chu family will be mine. He picked up his phone and messaged Xiongba. Make sure there are no loose ends. Then he opened Chu Yun's chat profile. A string of red failed to send notifications filled their conversation. He tapped the screen a few times and typed, Brother, where are you? Mom and Dad are worried about you. At that very moment, the sharp click of high heels echoed down the hallway. Chu Hao's whole demeanor shifted in an instant. The gloom vanished from his brows. His mouth curved into a bright, practiced smile, and the coldness in his eyes was replaced by carefully crafted warmth. He had perfected this mask over more than a decade, better than any martial arts technique. Knock, knock, knock. A soft knock came at the door. Chu Xiaoman's voice sounded from outside. Hao, are you in here? I brought you something nice. Chu Hao and Zhou Haixing exchanged glances. Zhou Haixing smiled knowingly. I will go check on the hall grounds, young Master Hao. He opened the door, nodded politely to the delighted, looking Chu Xiaoman in the hallway, and stepped out. Once the door closed, Chu Xiaoman held up a silver envelope like presenting a treasure. How? She waved the envelope, her eyes crinkling with joy. Look, the VIP Black level pass for the Azure Nether Secret Realm. Father got special approval through Director Li. Exclusive VIP access. Chu Hao stood up, feigning genuine delight. Sister, you went through so much trouble bringing this over so late. He took the envelope, flipped it over a couple times, then looked up with a hesitant tone. By the way, sister, any news about brother? Don't bring him up. Chu Xiaoman's smile froze instantly. She turned her face away. Chu Yun cut ties with our family. Stop worrying about him. Sister, he is no longer your brother. Chu Xiaoman cut him off decisively. Someone who disregards the family's interests does not deserve the Chu surname, and does not deserve you calling him brother. Do not mention him again. Her tone admitted no argument. Chu Hao lowered his head, his voice soft, almost a murmur. Still, he is our brother. He is out there alone with no money. What if something bad happens to him? Whatever happens to him is his own fault. Chu Xiaoman raised her voice slightly, then softened her tone, realizing she had spoken too sharply. You are a good kid, but you are far too soft-hearted. If that good for nothing had half your sense, none of this would have happened. Chu Hao opened his mouth as if to reply, yet said nothing, and simply nodded. Seeing his downcast look, Chu Xiaoman grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the doorway. Enough dwelling on this. Let's head home for dinner. Mother cooked your favorite dishes today, including braised first-grade colorful treasure fish. Chu Hao was dragged down the corridor. As they passed a window, glass reflected his side profile. His smile stayed in place, but the light in his eyes had changed. See, even fate is on my side. The VIP Black Pass for Azure Nether Secret Realm was his without difficulty. Chu Yun, my dear brother, where are you now? Are you suffering under Xiongba's hands, or already fertilizer for some patch of wilderness? It no longer mattered. From this day onward, you and I exist worlds apart. Chu Hao pulled his gaze away and followed Chu Xiaoman forward, his expression gentle once more. Clutching the black access card, the last trace of shadow in his heart faded away. Darkness had fully fallen by the time Chu Yun returned to the urban village district. He walked along the small river at the edge of the village and passed a still, open fried chicken shop. Red characters were stuck to the kitchen glass. Special fried chicken, buy one gene, get half gene free. He pushed open the glass door. Cool air washed over him, mixed with rich fried oil aroma. The cashier behind the counter had been scrolling on her phone. At the sound of the door opening, she set her phone down. Student, what would you like? This one, and this one. Chu Yun glanced at the menu, tapping several items. Add 5 family buckets, 5 portions of chicken popcorn, 5 large fries. Change all sodas to sugar-free. The cashier stared at him, sizing up the tall, thin high school student in his uniform. He hardly looked capable of finishing such an enormous order. Are you sure? Can one person eat all of this? It might still not be quite enough. Just give me that for now. How much total, ma'am? Chu Yun pulled a thick stack of cash from his pocket. After all, he was a martial artist with 150 vitality points. His energy consumption was enormous. He needed at least 10,000 calories per meal. 20 minutes later, Chu Yun patted his full stomach, stood up, and burped softly into the evening breeze. Now that he had cash, there was no need to keep living in the cramped urban village lodging. There was no private shower space. Hot water had to be fetched in buckets. It was terribly inconvenient. Carrying large amounts of cash around was also cumbersome, so he might as well spend it. He would open a new bank account after the martial arts examinations. Half an hour later, Chu Yun checked into the Orange Express Hotel near Jiangxing High School. With the martial arts examinations approaching, nearby hotels were almost fully booked. He had called several places before securing this room. As soon as he swiped his key card and stepped inside room 406, he took a long, satisfying shower. 3 days slipped by in the blink of an eye. For 3 full days, no one had opened the exterior door of room 406 at Orange Express Hotel. In the center of the room, Chu Yun sat cross-legged in meditation. His whole bearing bore almost no resemblance to how he had been 3 days prior. 100 vitality points marked the threshold to becoming a martial artist. Xiongba had spent an entire year climbing from 90 to 99 points, and had been stuck on that final point for half a year. That was his hard limit. He would never cross into true martial artist territory. 499 vitality points was the ceiling for ordinary martial artists. Countless practitioners spent their whole lives failing to surmount that barrier. Yet for Chu Yun, 499 was not a ceiling, it was a starting point. He had sat in quiet cultivation for 3,499 minutes. Only one more minute remained before he would break through from martial artist to martial master, completing every stage of his accumulation. Silent transformation unfolded inside his body. Deep within his dantian, liquid form vitality was being condensed by an invisible force. The volume of his vitality shrank to 1/10 of its original size, while its density multiplied tenfold. This was no mere quantitative increase. It was a qualitative leap. The difference between martial artist and martial master was not just a gap in vitality values. It was like the difference between water and ice. Only 1 degree separated them, yet their states were entirely distinct. Simply put, his vitality had grown far heavier. To adapt to this heavier vitality, his meridians, blood vessels, bones, and muscles underwent quiet physical transformation. Chu Yun's brows drew together. He had reached the most critical compression phase. At the center of his dantian, his maximally condensed vitality formed a vortex, spinning so fast it appeared almost motionless. 499.7, 499.8, 499.9. Boom. Power surged up Chu Yun's spinal column from the Wei, Lu acupoint all the way to the Bai, Hui acupoint at the crown of his head. 32 major acupoints along the path resonated simultaneously. A low hum reverberated from his bones. All 365 acupoints across his body opened wide, greedily drawing in ambient spirit, energy particles. Chu Yun opened his eyes. There was no dazzling radiance, no forceful exhale of sword, like qi. Having broken through to martial master, his control over power had grown even more restrained. The vitality vortex inside his dantian rotated steadily. With every rotation, his vitality grew purer, flowing soundlessly through his meridians and circulating throughout his whole body. He stood up and walked over to the window. A sparrow perched on an electric wire pole, tilting its head and chirping away. Standing behind the screen window, Chu Yun watched it quietly from a distance of 10 meters. The sparrow suddenly froze. The fine feathers on its neck stood on end. Its wings instinctively spread open, yet it dared not beat them under Chu Yun's gaze. Instinct screamed that danger drew near, yet an invisible sense of pressure pinned it to the spot, robbing it of the will to flee. Chu Yun shifted his gaze away. Greatly relieved, the gray sparrow flapped its wings and shot off, tracing a lopsided arc through the air. Mental pressure. It was no deliberately unleashed killing intent. Simply the natural aura born of a martial master's realm was enough to fill low-rank creatures and ordinary humans with instinct-driven unease. Should he intentionally release that aura outwards, ordinary people would feel suffocated within 3 steps, their legs turning weak within 10. If Xiongba stood before him right now, he would not even need to throw a punch. 1 finger, flicked against the forehead, would suffice. Merely by converting vital energy into particles of heaven and earth spiritual energy, Chu Yun could sustain his basic bodily functions. He could go 100 years without eating. That was what it meant to be a martial master. One had begun to transcend the mortal form of life. Of course, he would not truly go 100 years without food. A martial master's flesh consumed energy at a terrifying rate. Vital energy could keep him alive, yet it could not sustain combat readiness. After a high-stakes duel between martial masters, devouring an entire cow in 1 meal was nothing out of the ordinary. Chu Yun walked into the washroom, turned on the tap, bent down and splashed cold water over his face. Water droplets trickled down the bridge of his nose. He glanced into the mirror. He still looked like a senior, 3 high school student, save for his eyes, deep as a hidden well, calm on the surface and unfathomable. He had not stepped outside for 3 days, and faint traces of sweat from his cultivation lingered in his clothes. He hung the towel on the rack, pulled on his Jiangqing middle school uniform, and opened the door to head out. The lobby of the Orange Express Hotel was packed, mostly parents accompanying exam takers. Tension and anticipation hung thick in the air. Chu Yun threaded through the crowd, and pushed open the glass door. The June heat washed over him. Streams of traffic filled the road. 7 or 8 uniformed students queued up outside the milk tea shop opposite. Some scrolled through their phones. Others spoke into ear mics, their voices drowned out by car horns. Everything appeared normal. Chuyin slipped his hands into his trouser pockets and set off toward KFC. He had barely taken 5 steps when a sense of perception swept over him like a searchlight. It lingered on his back for a fraction of a second before pulling away. The technique was masterful. Had his 5 senses not sharpened upon breaking through to martial master, he would never have detected it at all. Someone was watching him. It was no casual glance from a passer-by, nor the admiring stare of a girl spotting a handsome boy. This was a lock-on. Chuyin kept his stride unchanged, his breathing steady. He did not so much as dart a glance behind him as he continued forward. With the martial arts exam drawing near, the hotel housed countless people. Occasional perception scans of one's surroundings were hardly unusual. He had sensed nothing amiss inside his room because that strand of perception had blended into the chaotic aura of the hotel guests. Now that he was out on the street, it remained fixed on him. That was far from normal. Chuyin turned down an alley leading toward the main road. The alley was narrow. Iron staircases clung to old residential building walls. Bed sheets and undergarments hung overhead to dry, and the air carried the scent of laundry detergent. He walked slowly, giving his tracker the impression they still held him in their sights. Then that same perception came again, from the same direction, bearing the exact same quality. This time its stay was even briefer. Who could it be? Chu Yun's first thought. Men sent by Chu Hao. Xiongba had been out of contact for 3 days. Since Chu Yun had not returned to the Chu family compound, dispatching more men to stake him out made perfect sense. Chu Hao never shied away from ruthless tactics. If he could pay Xiongba 100,000, he could afford to hire far more powerful operatives. Had his identity been logged at the hotel registration desk? Had Chu Hao filed a false missing person report to trace his location? No. If that were the case, agents of the Martial Affairs Bureau would have arrived alongside Chu Hao's men, and they would not have acted so furtively. Then who? The Martial Affairs Bureau. As that thought crossed his mind, Chu Yun slowed his pace slightly. Though the bodies of Xiongba and his 2 companions had been devoured by mutant hyenas, and their van burned down to a twisted metal shell, he had left no traces at the scene. Yet who knew what high-tech investigative tools the Martial Affairs Bureau possessed? They might well have uncovered some faint clue. The Bureau had every reason to investigate him. Before Chu Yun rounded the street corner, a figure stepped out from the shadows of the apartment block. A woman. She wore a tailored black women's suit, her long hair tied neatly into a bun, fully revealing her features. Around 30 years old, her facial features were sharp and stern, offset by strikingly bold red lipstick. She stood in the alley entrance, her aura contained and restrained. Even cooking fumes drifting from the apartments seemed to swerve around her. Chu Yun's pupils constricted almost imperceptibly. He heard the thunderous surge of vital energy coursing through her body. 490 points. Peak warrior. She stood on the very threshold of the martial master rank. You noticed my perception, the woman said. Her voice was not loud, yet carried a hint of surprise. Impressive. Chu Yun halted. He felt no hostility emanating from her, at least, not for the moment. If she intended to fight, a peak rank warrior could have easily subdued a high school student supposedly with only 10 points of vital energy, without wasting words on introductions. Do we know each other? Chu Yun asked, his tone level. We do not, she replied with a shake of her head, speaking in an official, business-like tone. My young mistress requests your presence. Who is your young mistress? Lu Qingxue. Chu Yun froze for half a second, a jolt going through him. Not Chu Hao. Not the Martial Affairs Bureau. It turned out this was Lu Qingxue's subordinate. Memories of their encounter within the Azure Mystery Secret Realm flashed across his mind. Had those events truly happened and not been a hallucination? Chaos roiled within him, yet no flicker of emotion showed on his face. What does she want with me? My mistress says you already know the answer. The woman recalled her mistress's tone at the time. Not anger, not righteous indignation, but cold certainty. This was bad. Had she found out? Even if she had, so what? It had never been intentional. There was no point in panicking. Chu Yun raced through possibilities in his head. Run? Bursting forth with full power to shake her pursuit would not be difficult. But fleeing would amount to an admission of guilt. It would lay bare his true strength and invite far greater trouble. If Lu Qingxue could track him to this hotel, she could dig up even more of his personal information. The fact she had sent someone to fetch him rather than storm and meant she wanted to avoid making a public scene, at the very least. Very well. Chu Yun pulled his hands out of his pockets and wore a casual expression. Lead the way. The woman guided him out of the alley and stopped beside a black sedan parked at the curb. Its hood bore the three-dimensional winged B emblem of Bentley. She pulled open the rear door and gestured for him to enter. Having lived 2 lives, Chu Yun had never ridden in such a luxurious car. He bent down and climbed inside. The seats wrapped around him perfectly. A faint scent of cedar lingered in the cabin. Once the door closed, all the noise of the outside world was shut away. They drove for roughly 20 minutes. The woman said nothing the entire trip, and Chu Yun asked no questions. The car pulled up outside a cafe named Traces of Cloud. Its storefront was modest, decorated in minimalist shades of white and gray, its floor-to-ceiling glass spotlessly polished. Chu Yun pushed open the door and seated himself at a window side table for 4. 5 minutes passed. A Maybach drew to a stop across the street. As its door opened, Chu Yun stole a sideways glance. A pair of white sneakers touched the pavement first, followed by long, slender calves, then the rest of the young woman. Lu Qingxue wore white sweatpants and a matching fitted hooded sweatshirt. Her hair was tied into a high ponytail. A few stray strands brushed her ears and swayed gently as she walked. Lu Qingxue's beauty needed no heavy cosmetics. Her bone structure shone, flawless from every angle. She had a straight nose, clean, cut jawline, and lips naturally tinted a soft pink, like a freshly bitten peach. Memories of their meeting in Pool 39 surfaced unbidden in Chu Yun's thoughts. He quickly suppressed all inner commotion and kept flicking through a match 3 puzzle game on his phone. Lu Qingxue pushed open the cafe's glass door, triggering the tinkling of the door chime. She scanned the room upon entering, walked straight over, and sat down opposite Chu Yun. She pulled out her phone and scanned the QR code on the corner of the table. She ordered an iced Americano, then looked down at her screen and asked, "What will you have?" Chu Yun had not expected her to start by asking for his order. He glanced at the wall-mounted menu board and answered casually, "A mocha." Lu Qingxue added a mocha to her order on her phone, confirmed the purchase, then lifted her eyes to meet his. They were beautiful eyes, yet held little warmth, like a lake capped with thin ice. "Mr. Chu," she said in a quiet yet distinct voice, "should you not offer me some explanation? First buy coffee to relax his guard, then strike straight to the heart. A fine psychological ploy." Still, Chu Yun had already prepared his response. He must not show weakness. He would turn the question back onto her. Leaning slightly back in his seat, he put on a convincing look of confusion. "Ms. Liu, if I recall correctly, this is our very first formal meeting." His tone turned cool. "If anyone owes an explanation, it is you. Why send people to spy on me?" Lu Qingxue's eyelashes fluttered. She stared silently at him for 3 seconds before speaking. "Spy is too strong a word. I merely sent Xiang Wei to invite you for a talk." She paused. "I did not anticipate your perceptual faculties would be sharp enough to detect her." Xiang Wei. That was the woman who had driven the car. So she had been involved in this. Chu Yun could not tell what scheme Lu Qingxue was hatching. He decided to speak plainly. "What exactly is it you wish to discuss, Ms. Liu?" Lu Qingxue said nothing. She simply observed him steadily, her clear gaze locked onto his pupils. For 3 days, her people had investigated him thoroughly, compiling records stretching all the way back to kindergarten. Their findings portrayed Chu Yun as an ordinary young man from a moderately wealthy household. Brilliant academically, low vital energy, strained family ties, constantly overshadowed by the adopted son Chu Hao. His only outstanding achievement across 18 years of life was earning top marks in the city-wide art stream examinations. 3 days ago, he had entered the Azure Mystery Secret Realm alone and somehow broken through her 9, Palace 8, trigram formation. Either her perceptions had deceived her, or Chu Yun was putting on an act so thorough it could fool even her senses. Whichever it was, one truth remained. The official profile was false. He had been deliberately painted as mediocre. In reality, he was a genius with extraordinary perception. Drawing this conclusion in her mind, Lu Qingxue maintained a composed expression. "Rest assured, everyone keeps secrets, and I hold no interest in yours." She leaned forward slightly across the table. "I am only interested in your capabilities. Do you hold some mistaken impression regarding what I am capable of?" Chu Yun's heart tightened. This was nothing like the confrontation he had anticipated. She was not here to reproach him. Had she seen past his disguise? If so, the Azure Mystery Jade Talisman was shockingly ineffective, unable even to fool a high school student's senses. At that moment, a server approached carrying their drinks, Chu Yun's mocha and Lu Qingxue's iced Americano. "I'm not speaking of vital energy. I speak of perception," Lu Qingxue said. She lifted her glass and took a sip of her iced Americano, leaving a faint mark of her lips on the rim. You detected Xiang Wei from across the street. That speaks to exceptional perceptual talent. And also what happened in Azure. Mice? She stopped short before finishing the name. Everything traced back to the Azure, mystery secret realm, yet she clung to a slim thread of hope. If Chu Yin did not bring it up, she could pretend the whole incident had never taken place. What else, Ms. Liu? You have me quite confused. Nothing. I came today to propose a partnership. Lu Qingxue dropped the pretense and stated her true purpose directly. A partnership? Chu Yin was thoroughly baffled. He weighed every possibility behind those two words. The Lu family was one of Jiangqing's most powerful aristocratic clans, leagues above local figures such as Chu Tianxiu. A single word from Lu Qingxue could accomplish more than the Chu family managed in 3 years combined. What could she possibly need from a senior, 3-exam taker? Once the martial arts exam concludes, I will venture into a secret realm in Zhongzhou. I require someone to accompany me. A faint smile tugged at the corner of Lu Qingxue's mouth. You are the person I have selected. A secret realm. As Chu Yin understood it, not all secret realms were safe, regulated zones like Azure, Mystery. Some had been cleared of magical beasts yet contained warped space and distorted rules, holding both great peril and immense opportunity. Only elite squads from the top martial arts universities earned clearance to explore them. Ordinary civilian warriors could not even locate the entrances. If in Lu Qingxue's eyes he truly was just a high school student with 10 points of vital energy, this invitation would be tantamount to sending an untrained rookie onto a battlefield. He gave up trying to fathom her motives. Why me? As I said, your perception is extraordinary. Lu Qingxue stirred ice cubes in her glass, producing crisp clinking sounds. This secret realm houses a perception suppressing barrier. Inside, most warriors' senses are heavily muted. Once inside, ordinary warriors lose the ability to detect incoming danger, much like regular civilians. Your task would be to assist me in locating the twin blossom within that realm. Chu Yin frowned deeply. This sounded like a trap. With the Lu family's influence, hiring someone gifted in perception ought to be trivial. Why seek him out? On the other hand, if Lu Qingxue truly wanted to harm him, she could do so effortlessly without resorting to such elaborate scheming. Something was off. She was withholding the full truth. Yet he bore the ascension staircase. Every moment spent cultivating raised his power. A 6-day expedition to a secret realm could net him 500 vital energy points, enough to advance to great martial master. He had no real need to risk himself exploring some dangerous secret realm. After brief consideration, he gave her a firm refusal. I am sorry, but I cannot spare the time. I can offer you a direct admission spot to Kyoto Martial Arts University. Lu Qingxue set down her glass, plainly waiting for his refusal so she could lay out an offer hard to turn down. Chu Yun's pupils narrowed. A direct admission spot. Not admission through the standard martial arts exam, but special targeted recruitment by the university itself. Such openings were extremely rare, reserved for uniquely gifted individuals, mental manipulators, formation masters, or those with special awakened constitutions. With such a spot, one skipped the martial arts exam entirely and received an official acceptance letter. Could she really arrange that? Chu Yin realized he had vastly underestimated Lu Qingxue's influence. Given your current standing, gaining entry to Kyoto Martial Arts University through regular channels will prove difficult. Lu Qingxue spoke without mockery, simply stating facts. This year, only 10 spots are allocated for Jiangqing. 2 are already taken by our school's guaranteed placements. Guangyi High and Nanli High hold 5 more guaranteed slots between them. That means only the top 3 performers in the city-wide exam will earn admission to Kyoto Martial Arts University. Without some hidden ace up your sleeve, are you certain you can outcompete the rest? Truth be told, Chu Yin did hold such an ace. He had not realized competition would be this fierce. He had planned to place within the top 10, assuming Kyoto Martial Arts University would be his for the taking. He had overlooked that 7 of those top 10 positions were already locked away by guaranteed placements. Confounding high achievers. Securing a spot in the top 3 would demand him to give everything he had and strive for first place. At last, he had learned genuinely useful information. Chu Yin lifted his mocha and drank nearly half of it in one go. Thank you for the warning, Ms. Liu. Still, I would prefer to try on my own merits. Do not give your answer so hastily. Lu Qingxue pulled a white business card from her pocket and slid it across the table toward him. Reach out to me if you change your mind after the martial arts exam. Chu Yin glanced down. The card bore nothing but a single phone number. Lu Qingxue finished the rest of her iced Americano, rose from her seat, and walked out. The door chime tinkled as she left. Chu Yin sat by the window and watched the Maybach merge into city traffic. He slowly finished the last of his mocha. It was cloyingly sweet. He picked up the white card, examined both sides, then slipped it into his trouser pocket. June 7th. The martial arts exam. Examinees were randomly assigned to nearby testing venues. As one of the city's key high schools, Jiangqing Middle School served as an exam site. Most of its students, including Chu Yun, were allocated to take their tests on campus. The school gates were swarmed with people, parents seeing their children off, Martial Affairs Bureau personnel maintaining order, teachers leading their classes, news reporters, and crowds of curious onlookers. The main road out front was completely choked. Long queues snaked through security checkpoints, with 6 magnetic screening lanes fully open and 2 backup lanes on standby. Nearly 100 spiritual energy detectors hovered every 100 meters, casting an invisible web of surveillance across the entire exam compound. Pale blue scanning light cascaded down, illuminating nervous expressions on countless young faces. Progress through security moved slowly. Each examinee underwent fingerprint verification, iris scanning, and checks of encrypted chips embedded in their exam permits. The martial arts exam was Longwa's highest stakes selection process. Every possible form of cheating or exam taking substitution was ruthlessly guarded against. Chu Yin stood at the very end of one queue. Students ahead of him took deep breaths, double-checked their exam permits, or closed their eyes muttering vital energy circulation mantras under their breath. Chu Yin did nothing of the sort. He simply waited in silence. "Make way. Please make way." Commotion erupted at the edge of the crowd, accompanied by the low rumble of an engine. A stretched black sedan pulled up and halted outside the police cordon. The driver hurried out and opened the rear passenger door. Chu Tianxiong stepped out first. His hair was neatly styled for the occasion. He wore an air of dignified composure and nodded politely to familiar parents standing nearby. Next came Lu Qingwan, dressed in a dark, green cheongsam, a jade necklace around her neck, and carrying a luxury handbag. The instant she exited the car, she turned and held out her hand toward the vehicle. "Howard, take care stepping down." Chu Hao climbed out. A warm, confident smile played across his features. He wore brand new white martial arts robes woven with subtle patterns that shimmered softly in morning sunlight. "That is Chu Tianxiong from the Chu family martial hall." "Is that Chu Hao beside him?" someone whispered. "Holds 9.9 vital energy points. One of Jiangqing's top contenders this year. They say he went into the Azure mystery secret realm 3 days ago. Wonder how much strength he has gained. Judging by his bearing, he might well aim for the top 3. The crowd parted for him. Several junior year schoolgirls held up hand, painted placards reading, "Best of luck in your martial arts exam, Senior Chu Hao." Chu Manman wore a fashionable French-style dress, her makeup elaborate as if attending a celebration rather than an exam send-off. Chu Cece was even more ostentatious, running a live stream, her screen flooded with scrolling comments. "Good luck, Senior Chu Hao." The 2 girls flanked Chu Hao on either side. Lu Qingwan reached over to straighten his collar, her eyes brimming with affection. Chu Manman held her phone up before him. "Look, everyone in our group chat is cheering you on. Uncle Wang's daughter says she is waiting for you to throw a feast once exams finish." Chu Cece lifted her selfie stick toward the live stream camera. "Everyone look. This is my big brother Hao, the future star of Kyoto Martial Arts University. Send him a spaceship gift to cheer him on. Thank you, number 1 fan." Chu Hao smiled, acknowledging every greeting with a gentle nod and modest words, yet a glint of self-satisfaction lingered deep in his eyes. He savored this feeling of being the center of attention. After more than a decade of scheming, his moment had finally arrived. He tilted his chin slightly upward, a surging heat rising in his chest. The Chu clan? It was merely a starting point. From this day onward, the name Chu Hao would echo across Jiangqing and even the entire southern Sichuan province. He would carve out his own legacy at Kyoto Martial University and within the sacred ruins. That foolish, detestable elder brother of his, he ought to be rotting somewhere in the wilderness outside the city by now. What a thrill it would have been to crush him on the martial examination arena, in front of all of Jiangqing. Unfortunately, that chance was lost. At the thought, Chu Hao's smile deepened. "Hey, are you nervous?" Lu Qingwan turned her head, her tone soft. "A little." Chu Hao lowered his head and smiled, striking just the right note of humility. "But mother, rest assured, I will give it my all. I have no doubts about you." Lu Qingwan patted the back of his hand. "You are the pride of the Chu family." Chu Xiaoman spoke up from behind them. How? I just checked the candidate list. Excluding recommended students, fewer than 3 people can match you in vital energy. Sister, do not say that. The martial examination hinges on more than just vital energy. Chu Hao shook his head. Combat prowess is what truly matters. You excel at combat even more. Chu Xiaoman sounded certain. You have practiced the Chu Clan Mountain, splitting leg technique for 12 years. Your foundations are rock solid. Chu Hao did not continue downplaying his ability, merely nodding with a smile. Kyoto Martial University was his unwavering goal. His gaze swept over the crowd. Then suddenly his pupils constricted sharply. His smile froze, his footsteps halted, and he stood rooted to the spot. At the very end of the security queue by the school gate stood a youth in an old Jianshan High School uniform, hands tucked into his trouser pockets. That face. The face he had thought he would never see again in his life. Chu Yun. Alive. Not a single visible injury on him. Chu Yun? How was he here? Had Xiongba claimed he had dealt with him? Chu Hao's mind raced, processing and piecing together fragments of information in an instant. His throat felt clogged, unable to swallow or spit. Could it be? Xiongba failed. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Xiongba possessed 99 vital energy points, while Chu Yun only had 1.3. How could he stand here completely unharmed? Chu Hao's fingers clenched unconsciously, nails digging into his palms. He stared fixedly at that figure, searching every detail for a flaw. A disguise? A stand-in? An illusion? That calm, almost indifferent gaze. Identical to the day he left the Chu family. There could be no mistake. It was Chu Yun. Hey, what is wrong? Lu Qingwan noticed her son's strange behavior and followed his line of sight. In the next instant, her brows furrowed, a cold look settling over her face. Why is he here? Chu Xiaoman spotted him next, her expression changing instantly. Chu Cece's live stream feed wobbled, and a bullet comment flashed across the screen. Cece, isn't that your useless elder brother over there? Tianxiong's brows knitted into a tight crease, and he said nothing. Lu Qingwan took a deep breath, unable to mask her disgust. She waved toward the rear. The steward, who had been standing quietly beside the car, hurried over. Madam, go. Lu Qingwan jerked her chin toward Chu Yun, her tone icy. Tell him this is the martial examination. He should not come here to make a spectacle of himself. Send him away. Do not let him disturb Heyer. Understood, madam. The steward nodded, weaving through the crowd until he stood before Chu Yun. Young master. The steward bowed slightly, his tone moderately respectful. Madam requests that you leave. The martial examination is no trivial matter. Given your vital energy level, there is truly no point wasting your time here, inviting ridicule from others. Chu Yun's face remained impassive as he spoke quietly. It was Chu Hao who invited me. The steward froze. Chu Yun continued, a faint, meaningful smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Also, please pass a message to Chu Hao. He paused, enunciating each word clearly. Thank him for the gift he sent a few days ago. I appreciated it greatly. The steward's pupils shrank. Though only a steward, he had served Tianxiong for years and was skilled at reading moods. The underlying meaning in those words was unmistakable. Still, he dared not ask questions. He nodded hastily, turned, and hurried back to the Chu family group, relaying Chu Yun's words verbatim in a low voice. You invited him? Tianxiong's frown deepened as he turned to Chu Hao. When did you meet him? Lu Qingwan also looked at her son, confusion and faint disapproval in her eyes. Heyer, what have you said to him? Chu Xiaoman erupted immediately. How? Have you lost your senses? That ungrateful wretch, why bother with him? You sent him something? What was it? Go get it back at once. Chu Cece chimed in. Exactly. Brother Hao, anything would be better off thrown away than given to him. Chu Hao stood there, a frigid chill surging from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head, stiffening every inch of his body. For a moment, all blood seemed to rush back to his heart. The noise around him faded, leaving only a maddening ringing in his ears. Thank him for the gift. He knows. He knows everything. Not only that, he survived. What became of Xiongba and the others? Chu Hao dared not follow that line of thought. Crushing terror mixed with surreal disbelief threatened to overwhelm him. He strained to control his facial muscles and forced out a smile, stiffer than a grimace. Father, mother, sister, Cece, do not be upset. I did send messages asking brother to come. The martial examination has always been his dream. So, taking part would let him draw a proper close to his high school life. Chu Hao's throat was dry, his speech disjointed, and his pace quickening involuntarily. I acted impulsively that day. I should not have fought him over that opportunity. I wanted to make amends, so I arranged for someone to deliver a mid-grade vital energy potion to him. I thought he might push his vital energy a little higher before the exam. Even an increase of zero point 0.1 would be something. After all, he is my elder brother. I wanted to help however I could. His story flowed more smoothly as he spoke, and his features gradually settled back into his usual gentle, kindly expression. Lu Qingwan's expression softened slightly. You are far too soft-hearted. No matter how much you give that man, it will be wasted. Chu Xiaoman remained furious and took a step toward Chu Yun. A mid-grade vital energy potion? It costs more than 500,000. I am going to get it back. He does not deserve it. Sister. Chu Hao grabbed her arm hard enough to pull her off balance. He drew a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. Sister, it is only a potion. It has already been given away. If brother chose to come and take the exam, it means he is willing to better himself. That is a good thing. We are family. Do not fixate on such things. Inside, he screamed frantically. Do not go. Do not provoke him. This is the martial examination venue, covered with surveillance cameras. If you push him to the brink and he decides to drag everyone down with him, exposing my plot to have him killed, I will be utterly ruined. Chu Xiaoman struggled against his grip, still seething, but she halted her steps. She shot a vicious glare toward the distant figure of Chu Yun. Chu Cece curled her lip. A useless man with only one vital energy point. Even drinking a mid-grade vital energy potion will not turn him into someone with 10 points. He will only embarrass himself here and get eliminated in the first round. Those words cut through the fog of fear, clouding Chu Hao's mind like lightning. Right. Vital energy. Chu Yun's vital energy stood at merely 1.3, recorded repeatedly by school testing equipment. Even if he struck that 1 in 10,000 stroke of luck within the Azure Mystic Ruins and underwent body refinement, his vital energy could at most rise to 10 points. No matter how strong he became, he could never match a quasi-warrior. He must have escaped Xiong Ba's ambush using some underhanded trick unknown to him. That scoundrel Xiong Ba must have avoided contacting him, afraid he would demand a refund. Yes, that had to be the truth. Chu Hao convinced himself once more. Pull yourselves together. Do not let one troublesome person spoil everything. Lu Qingwan noticed her son's absent stare and patted his shoulder gently. Chu Hao regained his senses, suppressing his unease and lowering his voice. Mother, I wonder if brother truly encountered a fortuitous opportunity in the Azure Mystic Ruins and broke through his vital energy shackles. Lu Qingwan blinked, then let out a scoff. That 1 in 10,000 chance falling to him? Nothing but a fantasy. We should prepare for every possibility. Chu Hao spoke softly. If brother truly broke through, even reaching 6 points would qualify him for the combat assessment. If he advances to the combat assessment, Tianxiong suddenly interjected, his voice low, you will teach this unfilial rebel a lesson for me. I have faith brother will achieve a decent result. Chu Hao's eyes suddenly lit up. He began hoping Chu Yun would pass the vital energy test. Once they faced each other on the arena, he possessed countless methods to cripple Chu Yun openly. An accident during official competition, witnessed by countless onlookers. No one could hold him accountable. Yes, that was the way. Chu Hao's heartbeat steadied once again. Fear was replaced by a burning, vengeful craving. Chu Yun witnessed the entire farce unfolding among the Chu family. He watched Chu Hao's face drain of color in an instant, observed his clumsy efforts to maintain composure, and saw the hatred and mockery plastered across every member of the family's features. His heart remained cold and empty. He almost felt like laughing. He turned his gaze away from them and quietly advanced with the cue. Soon, it was his turn. Admission ticket and identity card. The female examiner in her 30s spoke in a flat tone. Chu Yun handed over his documents. She scanned them, verified his identity, and completed fingerprint and iris checks. Chu Yun, Jiangxing High School. Venue, Hall 1, Seat, Zone B, number 37. She returned his papers and gestured toward the metal detection gate. Proceed through. No electronic devices or metal items permitted. Chu Yun walked through the scanner. Blue light swept over his body without triggering any alarm. He followed the directional signs toward Hall 1. At 9 o'clock in the morning, the first stage of the martial examination, the vital energy assessment, officially commenced. All candidates entered different testing halls according to their assigned venue numbers. Each hall housed 10 state-of-the-art vital energy detectors. The entire examination was supervised jointly by martial administration officials and representatives from prestigious universities. Inside Hall 1, candidates queued to step forward in seat order. The testing process was swift. A candidate placed their palm against the crystal panel of the detector and channeled their vital energy to its maximum. The machine produced an accurate reading within 3 seconds, precise to 1 decimal place. Wang Tao, Jiangxing High School. Vital energy, 4.7 points. Failed. Eliminated. Li Xingyue, Guangyi High School. Vital energy, 6.1 points. Passed. Result logged. Zhaochang, Nanli High School. Vital energy, 3.9 points. Failed. Eliminated. Announcements echoed across the gymnasium through loudspeakers, cold and mechanical. Every number prompted small ripples of reaction. Readings exceeding 6.0 drew quiet gasps of envy. Scores below 4.0 brought undisguised sneers and murmurs. Chu Yun glanced at the city-wide live results screen. The highest score so far belonged to a boy named Zhou Tao from Guangyi High School, with 8.1 vital energy points. It had already stirred a considerable stir. Zhou Tao is incredible. 8.1. That guarantees him a spot in an undergraduate martial arts program. I heard his father runs a martial arts dojo. He has soaked in medicinal baths since childhood. Chu Yun looked away and turned toward the adjacent queue. Chu Hao stood near the front, only 2 candidates away from the testing station. A boy lifted his palm off the detector, stared at the display screen, then sighed faintly and stepped down without a word. The recording monitor beside the examiner flickered as data saved automatically. The suspended central number was stark and unforgiving, 4.8. Before the elimination announcement blared through the hall, he lowered his head and walked through the crowd. This was the first brutal barrier of the martial examination. No matter how outstanding one's usual performance or academic grades might be, failure to meet the vital energy threshold rendered everything meaningless. In this era threatened by abyssal invaders, vital energy formed the foundation of all power. Those lacking sufficient vital energy, even with encyclopedic knowledge, could only serve as support staff behind warriors. That explained why every candidate breaking the 6.0 threshold was met with cheers. Next candidate, Chu Hao, Class 7, Jiangxing High School. The moment the examiner called the name, a murmur rippled through the gymnasium. Several spectators stood up, while others whispered to their companions, "That is the top prospect from Jiangxing High." Chu Hao stepped out from the crowd and took a deep breath, immediately slipping into the persona he had cultivated for 18 years. His features relaxed once more, forming a carefully measured, gentle smile that put others at ease. He walked steadily onto the platform, his back straight. "Very well, you may begin." The examiner checked his identity documents. Chu Hao nodded and placed both hands onto the detector. The instant vital energy flowed into the energy conducting patterns. The device hummed softly. Internal spirit energy rings spun rapidly, and numbers raced across the screen. 3.2, 6.5, 9.2, 11.7, 12.9. Finally, the digits settled. 13.5. A clear broadcast voice rang out. Chu Hao, Jiangxing High School. Vital energy, 13.5 points. Excellent. Result logged. For half a second after the announcement, the entire gymnasium fell silent. Then chaos erupted. Damn, 13.5. What was the previous highest score? 8.1. He is far ahead of everyone. That score is practically full marks. Several invigilators exchanged glances and nodded approvingly. Principal Duan of Jiangxing High School adjusted his glasses, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. While 13.5 would not stand out nationwide, it placed him firmly among Jiangxing's top tier of candidates. Chu Hao clenched his fists and shouted once, "Excellent." This outburst was unscripted, a rare display of genuine emotion. Youthful pride radiated from him as he embraced the shock and praise of the crowd. He reveled in every second of this attention. When stepping down from the platform, he slowed his pace, savoring the glory belonging to him. Instead of leaving Hall 1 straight away, Chu Hao walked over to where Chu Yun stood in the queue. With his 13.5 vital energy score and Tianxiong backing him, he believed the Chu family would shield him even if Chu Yun exposed his murder plot. He admitted he had panicked earlier, but now the tide had turned in his favor. "Brother, you must have gained something from the Azure Mystic Ruins to boost your vital energy. Since you chose to come, keep your mind clear. Quitting halfway would be such a waste." Chu Hao spoke loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear clearly. His words sparked immediate discussion among the onlooking students. The Azure Mystic Ruins? That is such a rare opportunity. Could his vital energy be higher than Chu Hao's? Do not get your hopes up. He earned entry with the city's top arts examination score. His vital energy has always ranked near the bottom of the grade. He is nothing special. What a waste of Ruins access. If I had gone, breaking 6 points would be simple. Chu Yun ignored the surrounding chatter and paid no heed to Chu Hao, calmly waiting in line. In his eyes, Chu Hao was already a dead man. The clumsy performance of a corpse was not worth wasting a single word on. "Keep going. I believe you can do this." Chu Hao intended to clap Chu Yun on the shoulder in feigned encouragement. His hand hovered mid-air, then met Chu Yun's cold, indifferent stare. A shudder ran through him. He awkwardly pulled his arm back and scratched his head. Let us go home for dinner together after the exam. With that, he exchanged brief greetings with several acquaintances and headed toward a quiet corner of the venue. The instant he sat down, his friendly mask slipped away, and a ruthless glint surfaced in his eyes. Chu Hao stared across the crowd at Chu Yun, muttering through gritted teeth. Keep putting on that act. Let us see how long you can maintain it. My dear elder brother, you must pass this test. Chu Yun directed his consciousness to communicate with the Azure Mystic Jade Talisman stored inside his system space. The conversation he had shared with Lu Qingxue in the cafe the previous day echoed in his mind. His original plan had been to set his vital energy at 20, then adjust based on the live city-wide scoreboard. Vital energy exceeding 10 points guaranteed full marks for this segment. If candidates tied on written and combat scores afterward, higher vital energy would give him an edge to contend for a top 3 city ranking. Yet when Chu Hao crossed over to taunt him, clearly confident in his new standing, Chu Yun altered his plan. He sent a signal to the Azure Mystic Jade Talisman, locking his vital energy at 13.6, merely 0.1 higher than Chu Hao. He sought more than vengeance. He intended to crush his spirit completely. Next candidate, Chu Yun, Class 7, Jiangxing High School. Chu Yun stepped forward, handed his identity card and admission ticket to the examiner, and laid both palms on the detector. The detector vibrated faintly. Numbers climbed slowly on the screen, starting from 1, 2.1, 3.7, 5.2. Chu Hao's eyebrows twitched, yet he maintained his steady smile. 6.8, 8.8. Chu Hao's smile began to stiffen. 8.8. He had actually passed the threshold, and by a wide margin. Had he truly encountered that 1 in 10,000 opportunity within the Azure Mystic Ruins? The numbers did not stop rising. 9.8, 11.3, 12.9. Chu Hao's pupils constricted. An icy chill slithered up his spine like a venomous serpent. The figure on screen crossed 13.0, pausing briefly at 13.5. Chu Hao's heart skipped a beat. Then the number jumped to 13.6. It froze. Chu Yun, Jiangxing High School. Vital energy, 13.6 points. Excellent. Result logged. The moment the broadcast finished, an eerie silence descended over Hall 1. Everyone's eyes locked onto the unbelievable number displayed on the screen. 3 seconds later, Hall 1 erupted into chaos. 13.6. The highest score of all. Chu Yun. Is that the Chu Yun who topped the liberal arts rankings? I thought his vital energy was rock bottom. How did he jump all the way to 13.6? The Azure Nether Secret Realm. It has to be the Azure Nether Secret Realm. He got that 1 in 10,000 lucky break. Chu Hao stood frozen, the color draining from his face at a visible rate. First ashen white, then livid gray, before flushing into a deep, purplish red. He stared fixedly at the 13.6 on the screen, bloodshot veins spreading around his eyes. No, this can't be real, he muttered to himself, his voice trembling. Suddenly he shouted, a feral snarl tearing out of him. The machine's broken. The testing device must be malfunctioning. Chu Hao abandoned the gentle persona he had maintained for 18 years. He strode abruptly over to the testing station, turned to the examiners, and pointed at the detector. Teacher, there's something wrong with this equipment. His reading was only 1.3 not long ago. There's no way he could hit 13.6 in just a few days. This defies all logic. The lead examiner frowned, about to speak, when another invigilator cut in with a cold tone. All equipment undergoes official calibration by the Martial Administration Bureau before every exam session. The margin of error does not exceed 0.05. Young man, watch your words. Chu Hao stiffened, his mind buzzing. 13.6. The number was like a blunt blade, sawing back and forth inside his chest. He could accept Chu Yun's vital energy climbing to 6 points. After all, he had spent 3 full days and nights inside the Azure Nether Secret Realm, and its benefits were well known. He could even accept a reading of 10 points. That would be luck beyond all expectation. But 13.6, higher than his own score. What gave him the right? To surge from 1.3 to 13.6 in 3 days could no longer be explained by mere luck. Chu Hao's pupils constricted sharply. He thought of Xiong Ba, the quasi-warrior with 99 units of vital energy. Even if Chu Yun reached 13.6, Xiong Ba could crush him with a single hand. Yet Chu Yun stood here completely unharmed. Xiong Ba had vanished without contact. Had some powerful expert rescued Chu Yun? A scene flashed across Chu Hao's mind. Deep within the Azure Nether secret realm, Chu Yun had not only succeeded in cleansing his marrow, but had also stumbled upon an ancient mark left behind from ages past. An ancient, mighty spirit manifestation appeared before him and said, "Young one, fate binds us." Then poured all its cultivation into his body. No, that was far too absurd. Damn it, curse it all. Chu Hao's fingernails dug deep into his palms, yet he felt no pain. Only raging flames of fury blazed wildly inside his chest. Today was supposed to be his moment to rise to fame. The day everyone looked up to him. Why did it have to be you? Why, after leaving the Chu household, did you not waste away like a stray dog on the side of the road? Why did you have to show up here? Chu Hao's features twisted. The gentle mask he had worn for 18 years shattered completely at that instant. Jealousy, rage, and killing intent wriggled out through the cracks like toxic vines, crawling across every inch of his face. He glared at Chu Yun, his eyes blazing red. Chu Yun had already pulled his hands away from the machine, his movements calm and unhurried. He did not spare Chu Hao a single glance. As if the 13.6 reading was nothing more than swatting a mosquito. That disregard stung Chu Hao far worse than any mockery could. Chu Hao suddenly laughed. It was a warped, ferocious sound. An impressive 13.6. You hid your strength well, my dear elder brother. Enjoy this fleeting glory of yours. In the practical combat round that follows, I will show you the true gap between us. With that, he spun sharply aside, barging into a stunned examinee and storming out of the venue. Countless gazes flicked back and forth between him and Chu Yun, whispers spreading through the crowd. Chu Hao's expression just now was terrifying. No wonder. Being overtaken, and by someone who was stuck at 1.3 before. I would lose my mind too. There's bound to be a spectacle in the practical combat test. Chu Yun's expression remained calm as he turned to the examiner. Teacher, may I leave? The examiner looked at him with complicated eyes and nodded. On the viewing platform, Principal Duan watched the entire exchange unfold. He paid little attention to Chu Hao's vicious expression or Chu Yun's unruffled demeanor. His eyes were fixed firmly on the two bright numbers on the screen, 13.5 and 13.6. Both students hailed from Jiangqing Middle School. That was all that mattered. Principal Duan took off his glasses, polished them repeatedly with a cloth, put them back on, and the corners of his mouth crept upward visibly. He quickly ducked his head and feigned a series of coughs, suppressing his wildly inappropriate grin. Teacher Zhou. He turned, lowering his voice and glancing toward the homeroom teacher of class 7, standing a short distance away. Chu Yun is in your class, isn't he? Teacher Zhou had been dumbfounded the moment Chu Yun's score appeared. He was indeed the homeroom teacher of class 7, and he knew exactly what level Chu Yun was at. For 3 years, Chu Yun had ranked dead last in every vital energy assessment. 1.0, 1.2, 1.3. He had prepared 3 separate speeches trying to persuade the boy to switch to the liberal arts track. This is, sweat beaded on Teacher Zhou's forehead. Principal, he is indeed from class 7, but even I cannot explain what happened. Cannot explain? Principal Duan frowned. A top talent scoring 13.6 emerges in your class, and you tell me you cannot explain? You know Chu Yun's complicated family situation, Principal. Teacher Zhou hastily thought of an explanation. He entered the Azure Nether secret realm a few days ago. He must have encountered some great opportunity within. For further details, we would likely need to speak with the Chu family. Principal Duan nodded and pressed no further. His features settled back into the composed bearing proper of a principal. He simply instructed, compile all of his academic records and bring them to me later before walking toward the main viewing platform. Teacher Zhou nodded repeatedly. When he reached the edge of the platform, Principal Duan pulled out his phone, scrolled to Chu Tianxiong's contact number, and dialed. Ring, ring, ring. The line was busy. Principal Duan waited a few seconds then hung up. He understood. Chu Tianxiong's phone was undoubtedly flooded with incoming calls at this moment. 2 outstanding talents from the same household. One son scoring 13.5, the other 13.6. This was the finest result in Jiangqing Middle School's history. Chu Tianxiong was most likely celebrating with someone right now. He smiled and typed out a congratulatory message, sending it to Chu Tianxiong. Truly a remarkable day. Outside the exam venue, cool air blew from the air conditioning inside a black sedan. The car's display screen streamed live updates of the martial arts examination rankings. Chu Hao's name popped up first, 13.5. Lu Qingwan clapped her hands on the spot. Chu Xiaoman and Chu Cece shrieked and embraced one another. Even Chu Tianxiong cracked a rare smile. Hao is the pride of the Chu family. Lu Qingwan's eyes grew moist. All these years of raising him were never in vain. Naturally, my Hao Hao is guaranteed a spot at Kyoto Martial University. Chu Xiaoman grabbed her phone and began drafting a celebratory post for her social media feed. The live stream for Chu CC exploded with activity. Gift animations flooded the screen, and her top viewer sent 4 Starship gifts in succession. She beamed toward the camera. See this? As expected, my Hao Hao is this powerful. Then the display refreshed. A new name appeared above Chu Hao's. Chu Yun. Number 1 Chu Yun Jiangqing Middle School Vital Energy. 13.6 Silence crashed over the vehicle. The hum of the air conditioning suddenly seemed deafening. Impossible. Chu Xiaoman was the first to scream, pointing at the screen. Cheating. He must have cheated. The equipment has a glitch. Chu Cece stamped her feet in agitation. Exactly. Jumping from 1.3 to 13.6? No one will believe that. Why isn't the Martial Administration Bureau investigating this? Lu Qingwan stared at the number on the screen, her brows drawing tighter and her expression shifting constantly. She unlocked her phone. I'll call Principal Duan and demand a full review of the surveillance footage. This matter must be clarified. There is no need to make the call. Chu Tianxiong spoke from the front passenger seat. His voice was quiet, yet every person in the carriage fell silent at once. He knew better than anyone that the detectors used for the martial arts exam were issued uniformly by the Martial Administration Bureau. The odds of a malfunction were slimmer than randomly finding a heaven-tier cultivation manual on the street. The 13.6 reading was genuine. This son he had confined in the basement for 18 years, whose vital energy had stood at only 1.3 mere days ago, had entered the Azure Nether secret realm after leaving the Chu household and gained the chance to purify his muscles and marrow. He had not returned to the Chu family afterward. He had not begged for resources, nor pleaded with anyone for help. He endured everything alone until exam day, stepping onto the testing platform. In the end, his vital energy surpassed that of the gifted adopted son Chu Tianxiong had poured all his martial arts gym's resources into nurturing. Chu Tianxiong struggled to accept the reality. Hall 3. The majority of examinees were from other schools. Students of Jiangqing Middle School made up less than 1/10 of the crowd. The ranking screen continuously updated the vital energy scores of all candidates across the city. In a quiet corner of the crowd, Lu Qingxue stood calmly. She wore a simple white tracksuit today, her long hair tied into a high ponytail. Without a trace of makeup on her face, she still drew every eye nearby. Yet her icy, unapproachable aura kept young men who wished to strike up a conversation firmly at bay. When Chu Yun's name appeared on the screen, Lu Qingxue's clear, cold eyes stirred slightly. Just as she suspected, he had concealed his strength during their meeting in the cafe yesterday. If he could shield his aura from detection by her ice-soul jade bone art, his sensory ability surpassed her own. Still, raw vital energy alone was not enough. The practical combat round was yet to come. Without high-tier martial techniques or sufficient battle experience, even with strong vital energy, he would not last 3 exchanges against true geniuses. Lu Qingxue shook her head faintly and pulled her gaze away from the screen. She admitted Chu Yun possessed unusual sensory power, which was precisely why she had sought him out. But the martial arts examination evaluated overall strength. Relying merely on 13.6 units of vital energy and a unique sense to fight through every round, claim a spot among the city's top 3, and earn entry to Kyoto Martial University? The odds were slim. Next candidate, Lu Qingxue, Class 1, Jiangqing Middle School. The broadcast interrupted her thoughts. Lu Qingxue rose from her seat. Within 3 seconds, the noise level in Hall 3 dropped by 60%. It was not because her name carried great renown. Few students from Guangyi and Nanli high schools knew who she was. Her appearance and aura required no introduction. The acknowledged icy beauty of Jiangqing Middle School. Rumor claimed she was a direct descendant of a powerful clan based in Kyoto, with mysterious origins and formidable backing. Still, most remembered her flawless features and innate cold demeanor. Lu Qingxue remained composed, ignoring the countless burning stares directed her way. She walked toward the vital energy detector. Who is she? I don't know. She's from Jiangqing Middle School. She's stunning, wow. What's her background? I've never seen her before. She doesn't look like an ordinary student. Lu Qingxue stopped before the equipment and placed both hands on the testing surface. The detector hummed to life. The runes etched into its crystal panel blazed at maximum brightness, and its energy ring spun rapidly, releasing a low, resonant vibration no previous candidate had triggered. Numbers surged upward on the screen. 10, 20, 50, 100. The threshold to become a formal warrior. Lead instructors from several martial arts schools shot to their feet. 150, 200. More and more spectators stood up, many clamping hands over their mouths in shock. The number continued climbing without slowing. The examiner checked his recording device to confirm no equipment failure, then looked up, eyes wide with disbelief. 224, the digits finally froze. Lu Qingxue, Jiangqing Middle School. Vital energy, 224. Superior grade. Result logged. For 3 full seconds, Hall 3 felt utterly silent, as if a mute button had been pressed. 500 people occupied the venue, yet the only sound left was the detector's steady hum. 224. A young man from Nanli High School shouted, his voice cracking. A genuine warrior. An actual cultivated warrior. 100 marks the warrior threshold. Over 200, that's easily a mid-tier warrior. How are we supposed to compete alongside her in this exam? She's only 18. Comparing people is truly disheartening. Jiangqing has hidden such an elite genius. Our city stands a chance at claiming the national top rank this year. Someone began to applaud. The applause spread quickly, sparse claps merging into a continuous thunderous roar filling the hall. The examiner overseeing Hall 3 stared at the data display, his hands trembling. He had presided over Jiangqing's martial arts exams for more than a decade. The previous highest score belonged to a recommended student last year, with 97 vital energy. Not just unprecedented in Jiangxing, but unheard of across southern Chuan province for over 10 years. On the viewing stands, 2 admitted students wore complex expressions. Both possessed less than 100 vital energy. Once the school published all scores, everyone would learn one truth. The true top candidate was not among the list of recommended applicants. Lu Qingxue stepped down from the testing platform, her expression unchanged. A reading of 224 was simply an expected value to her, nothing worth celebrating or hiding. She sought far greater heights, and the martial arts exam was merely the first step on the path toward those goals. She returned to the waiting area and sat back down. Whispers surrounding her faded away roughly 1 meter out. No one dared speak loudly enough for her to overhear. Chu Hao had just rushed out of Hall 1, his face deathly pale and his gaze filled with venom as he hurried forward. He heard the roar of amazement coming from Hall 3 and glanced inside almost instinctively. He caught sight of the bright red number displayed on the large screen. 224. He froze on the spot, struck as if by lightning. He had barely processed the blow of Chu Yun's 13.6, only to be confronted with 224. He had trained relentlessly for 12 years. Chu Tianxiong had poured all the resources of his martial arts gym into cultivating him. After 3 full days inside the Azure Nether Secret Realm, he had only reached 13.5. Lu Qingxue needed no grueling training. All she had to do was place her hands on the detector to achieve such a result. This was the foundation of a supreme, noble clan, a height that existed completely beyond his reach. A double blow, one dealt by Chu Yun, the discarded elder brother he had always dismissed as worthless. Another dealt by Lu Qingxue, the peerless genius he could not even hope to look up to. Jealousy, resentment, malice, and inferiority gnawed at his heart like venomous serpents. Chu Hao's features twisted into something grotesque. Why? Why must everyone stand above me? Chu Yun, Lu Qingxue, you all deserve ruin. Every last one of you. Bloodshot veins spread across Chu Hao's eyes. His teeth ground together with a sharp creaking sound. He spun abruptly and kicked a mature camphor tree beside the road. The trunk, as thick as a bowl, snapped cleanly. Sawdust scattered through the air. Pedestrians nearby cried out and scrambled to move away. Chu Hao paid them no heed. Head bowed. He fled the scene like a maddened beast. Inside Hall 1, Chu Yin sat quietly in his seat, waiting for all candidates to finish their assessments. The rankings on the display refreshed repeatedly. His name occupied first place for only a short while before being overtaken. Number 1 Lu Qingxue, Jiangqing Middle School, Vital Energy. 224 exclamations erupted all around him. The crowd who had been discussing the 13.6 score moments earlier were now entirely fixated on this new figure. A vast chasm separated 224 from 13.6. It was no simple comparison. It was a complete disparity of tiers. Chu Yun's gaze lingered on the number 224 for a moment, then drifted away. During their cafe meeting, he had sensed Lu Qingxue's aura carefully. Her vital energy ran deep, her meridian wheels stable, and her bones refined. She was far from an ordinary young lady from a noble household, yet he had still underestimated her strength. 224 marked a mid-tier warrior. She required no further participation in the unified exam. With this score alone, she could walk straight into the office of Kyoto Martial University's principal and receive an official admission letter by afternoon. No wonder she could casually produce a direct recruitment offer from Kyoto Martial University. She could have skipped the examination entirely through special admission, yet she chose to take the unified test anyway. Was she trying to prove something to her elders of the Liu clan? Or simply aiming to claim the city championship for amusement? He pushed the thought aside. Whatever her reasons, they held little relevance to him. They each walked their own path. It would be best if they never crossed. Chu Yun touched the white business card tucked inside his pocket. As for the so-called Zhongzhou secret realm, he still felt no urge to participate. Curiosity brings ruin to the curious. In this world besieged by abyssal invaders, every unknown variable carried extra danger. Lu Qingxue had her own plans, and he had his. He would steadily raise his vital energy at his own pace. Once enrolled in university, countless secret realms would become available. He could afford to wait. Ring ring the bell, signaling the end of the first exam sounded. Chu Yun stood and followed the stream of examinees out of the venue. As he walked, the ranking screen continued updating. The number 224 remained firmly at the very top, like an immovable iceberg. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the liberal arts examination began promptly. Closed book test. Examination duration, 150 minutes. Any rule violations discovered during the exam will result in immediate disqualification and a permanent mark on your academic integrity file. The invigilator's voice echoed through every examination hall via loudspeaker. The second stage of the martial arts exam, liberal arts theory. In this martial arts world, vital energy formed the foundation, yet theoretical knowledge carried equal importance. Martial arts history, analysis of monster weaknesses and behaviors, survival protocols within abyssal secret realms, Long Kingdom martial law and covenants, operational principles of high-tier martial techniques. Warriors who possessed brute strength without rational thought would never travel far in this era. They were always the first to perish. This formed the second great hurdle of the martial arts exam. Every year, numerous candidates with strong vital energy scores stumbled and failed this segment. Chu Yun followed the crowd toward the third teaching building and entered examination hall 15. He located seat number 23 and sat down. Invigilators began distributing exam papers. The stack was thick, packed with an overwhelming volume of questions. The exam featured an extremely diverse range of question types: multiple choice, fill in the blank, short answer, material analysis, scenario-based questions, and more. Everything was included. Many candidates paled the moment they received their exam papers. Sounds of sharp intakes of breath rippled throughout the examination hall. Chu Yun picked up his black signature pen and scanned the paper with a calm gaze. On the optimal armor, piercing angle for infusing vitality into the scale gaps on the back of the first rank monster, the brocade-backed lizard. Briefly explained the operating principles of 3 common neutralizing potion formulas for abyss miasma. Deduced the complete formation structure and potential functional category based on the incomplete formation runes attached below. Case analysis. Martial artist Zhang Sen accidentally injured civilian Li Si during a monster eradication mission. Combined with Chapter 3 Article 5 and Chapter 7 Article 12 of the Dragon Kingdom Special Martial Administration Regulations, analyze Zhang Sen's legal liability and the remedies available to Li Si. This was the true difficulty of the written section of the martial arts examination. It did not merely weed out bookworms who relied on rote memorization. It sought out genuine talents with great potential and insight, those who could travel far along the path of martial arts in the future. Chu Yun skimmed through the questions and felt confident. These problems might be insurmountable hurdles for others. To him, however, they were far too simple. The original host had ranked first in the city's written martial arts exam, boasting an exceptionally solid foundation. Almost every textbook and supplementary reference material was etched into his memory. The previous night, he had even spent 3 hours completing 3 sets of past exam papers online. After breaking through to martial master rank, his mental power had surged alongside his vitality, undergoing a qualitative transformation. Photographic memory was merely the baseline. His thinking speed, comprehension, and deductive capabilities had all climbed to an inhuman level. Chu Yun gripped his pen and began answering the questions. Scratch, scratch, scratch. 2 hours later, Chu Yun set down his pen. He double-checked his name and exam number to confirm everything was correct. Then he raised his hand. Invigilator, I would like to submit my paper. His steady voice cut sharply through the silent examination hall. Whoosh. Dozens of pairs of eyes snapped toward him at once. There was shock, confusion, envy, and disdain. Student, there are still 30 minutes remaining in the exam. Are you certain you want to hand in your paper early? The invigilator confirmed. I am certain, Chuyin nodded. Very well. Place your exam paper and answer sheet on the desk. You may leave. Chuyin stood, neatly arranged his documents at the corner of the desk, then turned. He walked calmly out of the examination hall under the watchful stares of every candidate. The corridor was empty. Slanted sunlight streamed in, casting dappled patterns across the floor. As he descended the stairs, he spotted a familiar figure emerging from examination hall 10. Lu Qingxue. She was recognized as Jiangqing's top genius. She possessed powerful vitality and extraordinary natural talent, while consistently ranking among the city's best in written assessments. One of the rare outstanding students who excelled equally in both martial practice and academics. Chuyin was not surprised. Their gazes met, and he gave a polite nod. The two walked slowly out of the teaching building, one after the other. He maintained an unhurried pace and deliberately did not look back. The sound of sneakers striking the concrete behind him was faint, too quiet for ordinary ears to detect. Yet it followed a steady rhythm, matching his own stride and keeping a fixed distance. Approximately 4 meters, Chuyin estimated silently. 4 meters on the stairs, 4 meters through the corridor, 4 meters after exiting the teaching building. That gap never shifted. When he passed the basketball court, Chuyin halted and turned around. Classmate Lu, is there something you need? You have been following me. The only road leading out of the school gate runs this way. How can you say I am following you? Lu Qingxue stepped forward, a hint of amusement glinting in her eyes. Classmate Chu, is this how you usually strike up conversations with female classmates? Chuyin stared at her for 1 second, then stepped sideways and gestured forward. Very well. You go first. Congratulations. Lu Qingxue did not move. Congratulations on what? Chuyin could not help but feel Lu Qingxue's conversation jumped abruptly. It had been the same at the cafe last night. She had leapt straight from, your perception is remarkable, to cooperate with me to explore the ruins, skipping all expected preliminary probing. Now she shifted just as abruptly from a light-hearted quip about conversation to a sincere congratulation. Naturally, congratulations on earning an excellent exam result. A rare smile appeared on Lu Qingxue's face. Chuyin immediately understood her implication. You deserve the congratulations. 224 vitality points. Your performance during the vitality test validated my judgment. Your perception far surpasses your vitality level, and by a considerable margin. Lu Qingxue walked to Chuyun's side and looked him up and down. How prepared are you for tomorrow's practical combat assessment? I will perform at my usual standard, Chuyun replied. Lu Qingxue's gaze lingered on the young man's calm expression. After a brief silence, she cut straight to the point. I suspect your practical combat score will land within the city's top 10. Even so, your overall score may not guarantee a top 3 ranking. Therefore, the offer I extended earlier still stands. Once the martial arts examination concludes, accompany me to Zhongzhou, and the direct recruitment spot will be yours. Classmate Lu is certainly generous. I mean no sarcasm. The corner of Chuyun's mouth tugged upward, not quite a smile. Still, my answer remains the same. Sorry, I have no spare time. Lu Qingxue's eyes narrowed slightly, and she managed only one word. You. Chuyun cut her off immediately. Classmate Lu, if there is nothing else, I will head home. He paused. Once again, sincere congratulations. 224 vitality points is an outstanding achievement. With that, he turned and departed. Lu Qingxue stood where she was, watching his figure cross the basketball court and vanish down the tree-lined path leading to the school gate. She had never been rejected twice in a row. Normally, she was the one turning others down. Growing up, she had never lacked admirers. Boys from the martial arts training class would deliberately arrange chance encounters in the corridor, steeling themselves to hand her sports drinks while avoiding direct eye contact. All of these people shared one trait. They unconsciously lowered themselves in the presence of Lu Qingxue. They grew nervous, tried to curry favor, and strove to prove their worth to her, terrified of being looked down upon. Chuyun showed no nervousness, made no attempt to ingratiate himself, and did not seek to demonstrate his value. In his eyes, she was neither an existence worthy of reverence nor a bargaining chip to be traded. He simply saw another person, an ordinary equal, someone he could speak with normally or turn down without hesitation. Interesting. That was Lu Qingxue's assessment of Chuyun. She rarely used that word to describe anyone. June 8th. The crowd outside Jiangqing High School had thinned by half compared to the previous day, yet the tension hanging in the air was far heavier. All candidates who had failed to meet the vitality threshold or flunked the written exam had been eliminated. Those who remained were genuine competitors vying for admission to prestigious martial arts universities. If the vitality test and written exam the day before had served to sift sand, today's practical combat assessment was a crucible for refining true talent. Practical combat was the hardest of the three major stages of the martial arts examination. Even perfect scores in vitality testing and written work meant nothing if combat performance fell short. Entry to top-tier martial arts universities would still be out of reach. Martial artists were bound for battlefields. Inside Abyss secret realms, there were no written exams, and monsters would not spare a life simply because someone scored full marks on theory tests. A temporary assessment zone within the martial arts gymnasium was fully enclosed by alloy fencing, with only a single entrance. Chuyin was first in line today. He swiped his admission ticket at the entryway, and the alloy door slid open soundlessly. Beyond the door stretched a corridor lined with 10 examination chambers numbered on their doors. An electronic display directed Chuyin to Chamber 1. Its overhead green light signaling it was unoccupied. He pushed the door open. The examination chamber was compact, roughly 40 square meters, lined with light, absorbent dark gray alloy panels, and devoid of windows. A low hum permeated the room, the distinctive background noise generated by high-precision spirit energy detection arrays in operation. A competition platform stood at the center, its surface covered in non-slip dark rubber matting. Dense sensors were embedded along the platform's perimeter, and 4 spirit energy fluctuation capture devices hung from the ceiling. Chuyin stepped onto the platform. The moment his feet touched the mat, a pale blue light strip illuminated along the platform's edge, and the atmosphere within the room grew noticeably heavier. Candidates with weaker mental fortitude might succumb to anxiety in this isolated environment and fail to perform to their standard. As the saying went, all fear stems from insufficient strength. After returning home the previous day, Chuyin had cultivated for another 4 hours. Holding 525 vitality points within him, he wore a calm expression. He even felt a little bored. First assessment, monster combat. Please select your weapon type. A cold synthesized voice echoed from above. A 3-dimensional projection area lit up at the front of the platform, displaying holographic models of 10 weapon types, ranging from swords, spears, sabers, and halberds to fist gauntlets and finger tiger guards. Chuyin reached out and tapped the unarmed fist techniques option. Selection confirmed. Assessment commencing shortly. Notice, this segment requires candidates to utilize basic fist techniques combined with theoretical knowledge from monster anatomy and weakness identification. Locate and strike the monster's designated weak points within the time limit. Inflicting sufficient cumulative damage or landing 3 precise weak point strikes will count as defeating a single monster. The assessment consists of 5 rounds. Each round features monsters with a 50% increase in strength. The 5th round monster possesses 200% of the baseline strength. Countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin. Space rippled opposite the platform. A monster phantom materialized amid swirling data streams. Dark brown scaled hide. A cheetah, like physique. A single horn protruding from its head, and a tail hard as a steel whip. First, rank monster, Iron Scale Jean. Swift and heavily armored. Its weak point lay in the scale gap, 3 inches beneath the armpit of its front left limb. The knowledge flashed through Chuyun's mind in an instant. Before the Iron Scale Jean could complete its pouncing motion, Chuyin moved. No elaborate footwork, no prolonged charge, just a straightforward straight punch. The holographic Iron Scale Jean never got the chance to roar. A condensed, razor-sharp fist force struck precisely at the designated weak point beneath its front left armpit. Boom. The phantom shattered into countless floating light particles. Stage 1 cleared. Time elapsed. 0.37 seconds. Chuyin defeated the monsters summoned in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds with a single strike each. No superfluous movements, no deviation exceeding 1 millimeter. It was as if he was not sitting an exam, but carrying out an exquisitely precise procedure rehearsed countless times before. The blue indicator lights along the platform edge began flashing slightly faster. The 5th monster emerged. The phantom solidified into a 3-meter-long giant wolf with a vertical pupil on its forehead. It did not attack immediately. Instead, it stood on the far end of the platform, locking Chuyin in place with 3 icy eyes. Wispy pale black mist curling around its body visible to the naked eye. This monster simulated the corrupted by abyss trait, its vitality carrying a faint mental pressure. Ordinary candidates would require immense courage simply to stand facing it. Chuyin met its gaze. 1 second, 2 seconds. The 3-eyed demon wolf moved. Instead of pouncing, its form blurred and split into 3 Three phantoms charged simultaneously from separate directions, striking in perfect unison. Illusory clone, an innate ability of the three-eyed demon wolf. The assessment difficulty had spiked to an outrageous level. Candidates needed to distinguish the real body from the illusions within 1 second, locate its weak point, and land a hit. Chuyin smiled. With his martial master tier perception and dynamic vision, this level of illusion moved no faster than a slow motion slideshow. He could even see, or more accurately, perceive, the subtle differences in energy flows separating the three phantoms. Just as the claws of the middle phantom were about to graze his throat, Chu Yun sidestepped to evade the blow. He extended his right index and middle fingers held together like a blade, stabbing forward. His two fingers jabbed accurately 3 inches below the lower jaw of the real three-eyed demon wolf, a node where its vitality circulated. A strike there would trigger temporary paralysis. A soft sound rang out. All three phantoms froze at once. The central shape solidified while the other two dissipated like bursting bubbles. The real three-eyed demon wolf lowered its head, staring at the spot where it had been struck. A muted whine rumbled in its throat before it dissolved into countless light particles. Stage 5 cleared. Time elapsed, 3.27 seconds. Monster combat assessment concluded. Total time, 5.48 seconds. Rating, perfect. Score 100. The synthesized voice paused for half a second, seemingly running cross-verification. Commencing second assessment, martial skill proficiency evaluation. Does the candidate wish to take a rest? Chuyin shook out his wrists. No need. Please select the martial skill to be tested. The system will deploy corresponding power measurement apparatus. The projection screen displayed a classification menu similar to the first segment. Fist techniques, leg techniques, saber techniques, sword techniques, and more. Chu Yun immediately selected Bajiquan. A hidden compartment opened in the center of the platform floor, lifting a black metal sphere roughly half a meter in diameter covered in intricate spirit energy circuit patterns. Vitality measurement sphere. It precisely analyzed multiple data points, including a martial skill's execution completeness, mastery level, and vitality circulation efficiency, then issued a comprehensive score. Assessment rules. Strike the metal sphere using your selected martial skill. The candidate receives 3 attack attempts. The system will record the highest result as your official score. Chu Yun walked to the vitality measurement sphere, stopping roughly 1 meter away. He needed to control his strength. He had not fully tested the power of a full strength strike combining 525 vitality points, fully mastered Bajiquan, and the Bajiquan prison suppression force. He restrained his vitality to 13.6 units, adopting Bajiquan's starting stance. He sank his waist and grounded his hips, letting vitality surge along the force pathways of Bajiquan and gather at his fist. He threw a punch, landing solidly against the surface of the black metal sphere. The sphere remained motionless. Pale blue ripples spread outward along its spirit energy circuits, covering the whole surface before contracting inward. Attack registered. Analysis in progress. Martial skill, Bajiquan. Execution completeness, 100%. Mastery level, full perfection. Vitality circulation efficiency, 99.7%. Comprehensive score, 90 points. Chu Yun raised an eyebrow. Why only 90 points? Bajiquan is a foundational martial skill promoted nationwide by the Dragon Kingdom. Its difficulty coefficient is low. Even when cultivated to full perfection, its theoretical power ceiling imposes a cap preventing a perfect score of 100 within the scoring framework. If the candidate possesses higher tier martial skills, switching test subjects is recommended. Chu Yun tilted his head and thought. The martial skill assessment was scored out of 100 points. With Bajiquan's difficulty coefficient of 0.9, the maximum baseline score was 90 points. Yet Bajiquan was the only martial skill he knew. He had no alternatives to test. If I only use Bajiquan, is it possible to achieve full marks? Chu Yun continued to ask. Theoretically, yes. If the candidate can unleash power exceeding the theoretical limit of a foundational martial skill, the scoring system will apply additional bonuses under the actual performance adjustment rule. A perfect score remains attainable. Exceed its theoretical limit? In other words, he needed to deliver a response worth 120 points on a 100-point exam paper. He had to manifest a state beyond the defined boundaries of Bajiquan itself. Chu Yun understood. It was comparable to Olympic diving. Low difficulty moves could not earn maximum starting scores no matter how flawlessly executed. Only performances breaking established expectations could change that. Chu Yun stepped back 2 paces and readopted his stance. Bajiquan prison suppression force. This ought to suffice. He stepped forward, twisted his torso, and unleashed his punch. The moment his fist extended, wispy black inner force erupted violently. Thud! A dull crash many times heavier than the first blow reverberated within the sealed examination chamber. The metal sphere shuddered continuously. A clear fist indentation 1 centimeter deep formed at the point of impact on its surface. Detected over, spec energy impact. Recalibrating metrics. Unknown high, grade inner force signature. Energy tier far surpasses standard foundational martial skill thresholds. Martial skill, Bajiquan. Execution completeness, 120%. Mastery level, full perfection. Vitality circulation efficiency, 99.8%. Comprehensive score, 99 points. 99 points? Even this could not secure full marks? Chu Yun glanced at the shallow fist mark on the sphere, then looked at his own fist. It seemed that even channeling Bajiquan prison suppression force could not break free of the system classification labeling Bajiquan as merely a foundational martial skill. In that case, do not blame me. His gaze sharpened. 525 vitality points, fully unleashed. Bajiquan prison suppression force, fully unleashed. The dormant power inside Chu Yun erupted like a volcano. Majestic strength surged forth from the vitality vortex in his dantian, roaring along his meridians. His bones and tendons hummed as the force passed through them. He took one step forward. The third punch descended. Boom! The black metal sphere could not withstand the blow for even a fraction of a second. It burst apart like a watermelon struck by a sledgehammer. Countless metal fragments clattered against the energy shield surrounding the competition platform, stirring a string of dazzling ripples. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Red warning lights on the ceiling spun and flashed frantically. Alert! Alert! Vitality measurement sphere in Chamber 7 completely destroyed. Energy impact exceeds safety threshold. Request immediate inspection support. Candidate data anomaly. Repeat, candidate data anomaly. Smoke drifted slowly through the wreckage, strewn examination chamber. Chu Yun slowly withdrew his fist, straightened up, and exhaled a long breath. He looked toward the broken base of the sphere, a faint smile tugging at his eyes. Surely this would be enough for full marks. Outside the examination chamber, within the monitoring center, 3 staff members wearing Martial Administration Bureau uniforms stared at dozens of split display screens. Suddenly, the feed from examination chamber B7 flickered violently before dissolving into blinding static. What happened? Did we lose signal from B7? The signal is not cut, it's overloaded. What is going on? Did the candidate use prohibited stimulants? Or unauthorized high-tier spirit energy weaponry? Hurry, pull up footage from the backup sensor array. The backup video feed loaded. On screen, the young man wearing Jiangcheng High School uniform threw a punch. The type, 3 dark iron testing apparatus, designed to withstand full power strikes from peak martial artists, shattered as easily as paper beneath his fist. Monitoring center. Dead silence hung in the air. After a full 10 seconds, the bald aged man seated in the center jolted back to his senses and slammed a palm down onto the control console. Damn, what a monster. He blew up the Type 3 black iron dummy. 8 Extremes Fist, the 8 Extremes Prison Suppression Force. I can't believe someone actually devoted themselves to mastering this basic martial art. After all these years, this is the first time I've seen anyone unleash such overwhelming 8 Extremes Prison Suppression Force in actual combat. A younger technician stammered beside him. How do we score this? The bald man stared at the juvenile's face on the screen, then at the pile of shattered debris, the corners of his mouth twitching repeatedly. Finally, he gritted his teeth and quickly tapped out commands on the console. Inside testing chamber B7, the shrill alarm fell silent at once. A mechanical electronic voice rang out again. Data anomaly. Evaluating martial art. 8 Extremes Fist. Completion rate. 200%. Proficiency. Grand perfection. Vital energy circulation efficiency. 100%. Overall score. 100 points. A faint smile tugged at Chu Yun's lips as he listened to the announcement. 100 points. That was only right. The door to the testing chamber slid open once more, and he turned to walk out. A dozen examinees lined up in the passageway, while 3 staff members hurried into Chamber 7. The candidates at the front heard the commotion inside and spotted the red lights signaling out of service light up on the door. They all craned their necks to look over. Hey buddy, what's going on in there? I swear I heard an explosion and alarms going off. A bespectacled boy wearing the uniform of Guangyi High School turned toward Chu Yun, who had just stepped out of the testing room. Chu Yun glanced at him, his tone calm. Nothing much. I struck a little too hard and punched the equipment to pieces. The bespectacled boy froze for a second before bursting out laughing. Bro, that's quite the boast. You punched the equipment apart? Why not claim you could shatter the planet with one blow? Low chuckles rose from the other examinees nearby. No one believed a word of it. Chuyin looked down at his fist and muttered quietly. Shatter the planet with one punch. Given enough time, it isn't impossible. He smiled and headed toward the exit of the passageway. The bespectacled boy was about to tease him further when the electronic bulletin board beside the testing chamber door refreshed with several lines of text. Chuyun Jiangxing High School, Practical Combat Exam Score, 200. Exam equipment damaged. Remaining examinees please proceed to spare testing chamber 19. The laughter echoing down the corridor died instantly. The bespectacled youth and the other candidates stiffened, their eyes locked onto the 200 score and the note about damaged equipment. 200 points, full marks? Damaged equipment, awaiting repairs? That loud crash from earlier. Could it be? The boy twisted rigidly toward the corridor corner where Chu Yun had vanished, unable to utter a word for a long time. It was 11:30 in the morning. The bell marking the end of the morning exam rang on schedule. All examinees were ordered to gather on the main sports field. The ground was packed with people, and the atmosphere burned far more heatedly than when preliminary results were announced the previous day. The morning scores would decide who advanced to the final round that afternoon, the city's top 16 tournament. Scores from 3 subjects, vital energy, liberal arts, and practical combat, would be combined, with only the top 16 candidates qualifying. These 16 fighters would face off one on the arena, watched by examinees, parents, media representatives, and university recruitment officers. The champion of this year's Jiangxing Martial Arts examination would be decided in the end. As luck would have it, the tournament was hosted at Jiangxing High School. Students from the school were buzzing with excitement over their home advantage. At the center of the sports field stood a 3-story, tall holographic projection screen, already illuminated. Blinding blue light cascaded with endless streams of scrolling data. Every person lifted their heads, holding their breath, eyes fixed firmly on the display. It's loading, someone shouted. The flowing data on the screen froze abruptly. The first name was highlighted in striking bold red characters, like a king receiving his crown. 1. Chuyun Jiangxing High School, Vital Energy Index. 13.6, Vital Energy Score. 300 points, Liberal Arts Score. 200 points, Practical Combat Score. 200 points, Total Score, 700 points. Boom. The entire sports field erupted. 700 points? Holy hell, a perfect total score. I can accept perfect liberal arts and vital energy scores, but a perfect practical combat score? What kind of monster is this? It's been years since anyone got full marks in the morning practical combat assessment. Chu Yun. It's him. Yesterday he edged out Chu Hao's 13.5 with 13.6, and now he's claimed first place outright. Where did this dark horse come from? Roaring chatter swept across the field. Countless pairs of eyes scanned the crowd, hunting for the owner of that name. Immediately afterward, the second line appeared. 2. Lu Qingxue Jiangchang High School, Vital Energy Index. 224, Vital Energy Score. 300 points, Liberal Arts Score. 196 points, Practical Combat Score. 200 points, Total Score. 696 points. The crowd erupted once again. Lu Qingxue also got full combat marks. 2 perfect practical combat scores. What's happening in Jiangxing this year? Monsters everywhere. Lu Qingxue's 224 vital energy makes her perfect score understandable. But how does Chu Yun with only 13.6 vital energy manage it? Is there some unfair favoritism here? Doubts were quickly drowned out by waves of amazement. Lu Qingxue stood quietly within the crowd. She had changed into light gray sportswear that day, her long hair tied into a high ponytail, revealing a slender pale neck. Her eyelashes fluttered slightly as she stared at the rankings. She cared less about her own 196 liberal arts points than Chu Yun's 200 combat score. She had earned full marks relying on her ice-soul physique and the 3rd stage of the ice-soul bone refining art. The combination unlocked the full potential of her physique, and paired with her staggering 224 vital energy, she barely crossed the threshold for a perfect score. None of those advantages could be missing. She understood better than anyone how valuable a perfect practical combat score in the martial arts exam truly was. So he really hid his true strength. He might actually stand a chance of fighting for the top 3. Lu Qingxue's gaze drifted over the crowd and landed on the most striking figure. The juvenile stood in profile, clean defined jawline, his gaze calm as he watched the screen, no trace of wild joy or arrogance on his face. 3rd through 7th place belonged to top talents from other schools, with total scores ranging from 675 to 690. None held a perfect combat score. That changed at 8th place. Chuhao Jiangshan High School, Vital Energy Index, 13.5, Vital Energy Score, 300 points, Liberal Arts Score, 182 points, Practical Combat Score, 190 points, Total Score, 672 points. If anyone besides Lu Qingxue cared deeply about Chu Yun's results, it was Chu Hao. Positioned in a corner of the crowd, Chu Hao stared up at the holographic screen. His eyes locked rigidly on the red score at the very top. 700 points. His composure shattered all over again. Full marks in liberal arts, full marks in vital energy, full marks in practical combat. Every perfect score struck him like a heavy slap, smashing apart all his schemes and pretensions. The muscles on Chu Hao's face twitched uncontrollably. Scorching rage surged from his chest, rushing through his veins to his brain, staining his eyes bloodshot. He had pushed himself to the limit, scoring 182 in liberal arts and 190 in combat for a total of 672. Though the gap appeared to be merely 28 points, an insurmountable chasm separated them. Chu Hao's breathing grew ragged, his chest heaving, bloodshot eyes twisting ferociously. How could this be possible? A nobody who possessed merely 1.3 vital energy 3 days ago, an outcast cast aside by the Chu clan, trash who ought to have died in the wilderness outside the city. How dare he stand above Chu Hao? How dare he earn full marks? He burned to incinerate that name on the screen with his glare. Noise washed over the crowd, yet all sound faded away for him. Wait, a perfect combat score? A perfect combat score meant one thing. One must master a yellow-tier martial art to grand perfection, or cultivate a black-tier martial art to great accomplishment. Had Chu Yun also learned mountain-splitting legs? No. Impossible. Mountain-splitting legs was the core inherited skill of the Chu clan, and Chu Tianxiong had strictly forbidden it from being passed to outsiders. Years ago, Chu Hao had secretly left the cultivation manual in Chu Yun's room. Before half an hour passed, Chu Yun had only managed to glance at the first 3 forms before Chu Tianxiong caught him red-handed. That same day, Chu Yun was forced to kneel in the basement all night. Cold qi invaded his body, leaving him gravely ill, the root cause that had prevented his vital energy from advancing for years afterward. Chu Tianxiong had only passed the skill to Chu Hao. He was the sole heir of the Chu clan. Frigid cold mixed with overwhelming jealousy swept through Chu Hao's body. Earlier, he had planned to cripple Chu Yun in the afternoon tournament using his great accomplishment mountain-splitting legs. Now, with Chu Yun holding a perfect combat score, it was plain to see who would cripple whom. Despair rose like floodwater, climbing from his feet until it swallowed him whole. Strength drained from Chu Hao's limbs. His vision swam and darkened, and he stumbled, nearly falling headfirst into the drainage ditch beside him. It was over. Everything was over. What was the point of competing in the afternoon tournament? Would he step onto the arena just to humiliate himself? Just as Chu Hao sank into hopelessness, a frigid gaze cut through the bustling crowd and locked onto him precisely. It was Chu Yun. Their gazes collided amid the noisy air. Chu Yun looked at him not as a brother consumed by hatred, but as if he were merely a stone, a blade of grass, a corpse. Yet that utter indifference, that complete disregard, landed on Chu Hao's taut nerves like the cruelest taunt, as if saying, a younger brother remains a younger brother. No matter how many resources you consume, you will always be my stepping stone. Puff! Chu Hao's body shuddered violently. He clapped a hand over his mouth, strands of scarlet blood seeping between his fingers. No, he could not accept this outcome. He would never let Chu Yun step over his head to return to the Chu clan. He would never let this former nobody seize everything that rightfully belonged to him. The Chu clan could survive without Chu Yun, but it could never survive without Chu Hao. Dark emotions sprouted from the depths of his soul, swiftly devouring all weakness. Chu Hao's vacant, dazed eyes gradually focused, hardening into venomous hatred. He wiped the blood from his jaw with his sleeve, slipped away from the crowd, and pulled out his mobile phone from his pocket. Hey, do you still have that supply I asked about before? Of course, young Master Hao. Finally made up your mind. The voice of Zhou Haixing, the deputy gym manager, crackled over the line. Send all of it to me at once.